2010s might just be the most spectacular decade in NBA history for a bunch of different reasons.
And here he goes.
Here we go.
Showtime! Oh, blocked by James. The lob. Touchdown.
We saw the birth of super teams.
Not 6, not 7.
And the best regular season of all time.
Curry, way down top. Bang! Bang!
The greatest farewell game of all time.
Bryant on the move with the jumper. What can I say? Mamba out.
The most beautiful display of team basketball ever, arguably the best dunk contest ever, the rise of international superstars, series-clinching buzzer beaters.
Is this the dagger?
And two of the greatest three-pointers in the history of the NBA Finals.
Back out to Allen. His three-pointer. Bang!
During the 2010s, a tectonic shift occurred in how the game was played, with one player changing basketball thinking forever.
That's behind the back. Fires a three. Oh, he puts it in!
Now, when the decade started, it was a bar fight.
Tonight was a ball fight, man.
And by the time it ended, it was something completely different, highlighted by a barrage of three-pointers.
Lillard, long-range three. And it's good!
In the 2010 NBA Finals, teams averaged 88 points and 17 three-point attempts per game. In the 2019 Finals, Toronto and Golden State averaged 108 points and 34 attempts from deep. But not only did the basketball change, everything around it changed too. Player empowerment became more important than ever, with some of the biggest free agency moves in NBA history.
In this fall, I'm going to take my talents to South Beach and join the Miami Heat.
The media landscape transformed as well. Shaq joined Inside the NBA.
What?
Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless redefined debate shows.
A miracle may actually happen here because you might actually have to admit that you agree with me about something.
And Twitter replaced TV for highlights and breaking news, led by Adrian Wojnarowski and his Woj bombs. From the iconic memes, unforgettable crossovers, nasty dunks,
What are you doing, Dragon?
and legacy-defining moments from some of the biggest superstars in NBA history, the 2010s had it all. This is the full recap of the second decade of this millennium, from the 2009-10 NBA season until 2019. But when the decade started with the 2009-10 NBA season, the NBA still had a 90s feel to it. Almost every team played with two traditional back-to-the-basket big men, and the league average for three-point attempts was 18 threes per game, just 4 attempts higher than when the decade started. So it was no surprise that the first 2 picks of the draft were big men. The first was Blake Griffin, the 6'9" forward with springs in his legs, selected by the LA Clippers, followed by the 7'3" Hasheem Thabeet, who averaged over 4 blocks per game at UConn. But the next 5 selections were all guards, led by James Harden, who got drafted 3rd by OKC, and Steph Curry, who was the 7th overall pick. Other notable players selected were DeMar DeRozan, Drew Holiday, Jeff Teague, Pat Beverly, and Tyreek Evans. In what was one of the best draft classes ever for guards, the 38-year-old Shaq moved from Phoenix to Cleveland.
The Cleveland Cavaliers, Phoenix Suns agreeing to a trade for Shaquille O'Neal.
The declining Vince Carter joined the Magic, and Zach Randolph got traded to Memphis, where he would become a legend of the grit and grind Grizzlies. But before the season even started, arguably the most legendary Hall of Fame class reached basketball immortality in Springfield. John Stockton, David Robinson, and coach Jerry Sloan entered the Hall, but the biggest buzz was naturally around Michael Jordan. MJ entered the Hall at the age of 46, giving one of the most memorable speeches in Hall of Fame history, along with the infamous crying meme. Mikhail Prokhorov, Russia's richest man according to Forbes, became the majority owner of the New Jersey Nets. And for the first time in 15 years, the NBA referees failed to reach a contract with the NBA, resulting in a referee lockout. On October 27th, the regular season began, with the referees agreeing to participate along with a record 83 international players on opening night rosters. The projected Rookie of the Year, Blake Griffin, injured his kneecap in the last preseason game, forcing him to sit out the entire season. The same fate struck another #1 pick, Greg Oden, who broke his kneecap after only 21 games games into the 2010 season, and he'd never play for the Blazers again. And after he played just 3 games for the Grizzlies, Memphis waived the 10-time All-Star Allen Iverson, after which he signed with the team synonymous with his career, the Philadelphia 76ers. AI played 25 games for the Sixers, made his 11th and final All-Star game, and his last hurrah was a memorable game against Kobe Bryant and the Lakers, in which Iverson scored a season-high 25 points. On January 9th, Detroit Pistons guard Ben Gordon scored the 10 millionth point in NBA regular season history, and 2 weeks later, James Curry played 3.9 seconds in a game with the Clippers, recording no stats or ball touches. And since he was waived the next day, Curry set the record for the shortest professional career in NBA history in terms of playing time. The biggest news of the season was the scandal between the Wizards All-Star Gilbert Arenas and teammate Javaris Crittenden, who brought guns to the locker room and threatened to kill each other.
Any possible excuse or explanation for why Gilbert Arenas, loaded or not loaded, would have guns in a locker room in the NBA?
Bad judgment and being very immature.
Both players were suspended for the rest of the season, marking the second largest suspensions in a non-substance abuse-related incident. The 2010 NBA All-Star Game was played at Cowboys Stadium in Texas, with a record-breaking attendance of 108,713 spectators. The East won 141-139, and Miami Heat guard Dwayne Wade was named the MVP. Nate Robinson won the slam dunk contest for a record 3rd time, Kevin Durant won the horse competition for the 2nd straight year, and Boston's Paul Pierce beat rookie Stephen Curry to win the 3-point shootout. 2 weeks later, Michael Jordan reached a deal to become the majority owner of the Bobcats, thus becoming the first former player with full ownership of an NBA team. And one of the rare players who can be mentioned in the same sentence with MJ in terms of scoring won his first scoring title in 2010. It was Kevin Durant, who averaged 30.1 points per game and, at age 21 years and 197 days,
The youngest scoring leader in the history of the league.
Dwight Howard led the league in blocks and rebounds, which secured him his 2nd Defensive Player of the Year title, while Steve Nash led the NBA in assists for the 4th time. Kyle Korver broke the all-time record in three-point percentage in a season, making 53.6% of his shots from deep. Golden State Warriors head coach Don Nelson became the NBA's all-time leader in wins, passing Lenny Wilkens' previous record of 1,332 victories. Kobe became the youngest player to score 25,000 points.
And there it is. 25,000 points and counting.
And later in the season, he became the all-time Lakers points leader.
Farmar with Kobe, sets it up, he's done it! The greatest player in franchise history, Kobe Bryant.
Surpassing Jerry West. The Orlando Magic broke the all-time record in three-pointers made in a season with 841 made threes, a record that would be shattered in the upcoming years. And after he led the Cavaliers to an NBA best 61-21 record, LeBron James won his 2nd consecutive MVP award after averaging 37-8 for the season. Tyreek Evans became just the 4th rookie in NBA history to average at least 20 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists after Oscar Robertson, Michael Jordan, and LeBron, winning the Rookie of the Year award ahead of Steph Curry and Brandon Jennings, who notably scored 55 points in the 7th game of his career. Jennings became the youngest player ever to score 55. It was also the highest scoring game of the entire 2010 season and the most points scored by a rookie since Earl Monroe scored 56 in 1968. When the playoffs started, all 8 Western Conference playoff teams won at least 50 games, and only 7 wins separated the 1st seed and the 8th seed. The Lakers defeated the young Thunder team in 6 games, Phoenix got past the Blazers, and the 5th-seeded Jazz defeated Carmelo Anthony and the Nuggets. San Antonio beat Dallas in the first round, only to get swept by the Suns in the second after defeating Phoenix in the playoffs 4 times in the previous 7 seasons. In the East, there were no surprises, as all favorites advanced in the first round, and in the conference semis, the Magic swept the Hawks, just like the Lakers against Utah.
The final score, they make it a 4-game sweep.
The only competitive series in the second round was the one between the Celtics and the Cavaliers, which was tied after 4 games. But even though most people expected LeBron and the top-seeded Cavs to finally get past the Celtics' Big Three, Boston won the next 2 games and advanced. James was heavily criticized for the apparent lack of effort in Game 5.
3 of 14 tonight. We normally don't see this type of performance out of you in a big game like this.
And despite posting a huge 27, 19, and 10 triple-double in Game 6, some reporters, led by Skip Bayless, accused LeBron of quitting on the Cavaliers.
They made LeBron quit.
which cast a huge shadow on James's upcoming free agency. But after they defeated Cleveland in the conference finals, the Celtics also beat Orlando in 6 games, advancing to their 26th NBA Finals. There, they would play the Lakers, who had beaten the Suns in 6 games, the 12th time the Lakers and the Celtics met in the finals. Throughout the finals, Bryant couldn't shoot well, playing with a bone spur in his ankle and a broken finger on a shooting hand. The entire series was dominated by defense, with both teams exceeding 100 points just once, and after 5 games, the Celtics had a 3-2 lead. Despite the injuries, Kobe was more determined than ever, and Game 6 was a blowout, with all to play for in the deciding Game 7. However, in the last game of the season, Kobe struggled. He shot 6 of 24, incapable of putting the game away on his own. But with his Mamba mentality, he'd rather die than lose to the Celtics in the finals twice. Bryant had 15 rebounds and was doing everything possible to win, keeping the game close. Then, in the last minute, Ron Artest hit a 3-pointer that clinched the game, and the Lakers won the championship for the 2nd year in a row. Kobe got his 5th title that night, and his 2nd Finals MVP. And when a reporter asked what the title meant for him, Bryant gave one of the most memorable answers in NBA history.
He's got one more than Shaq.
Before the next season started, the focus wasn't on the draft lottery, trades, or anything other than the controversial free agency decision of LeBron James.
LeBron, what's your decision?
In this fall, man, this is very tough. In this fall, I'm going to take my talents to South Beach and join the Miami Heat.
Even though the decision raised $2.5 million for charity, it was a PR fiasco. And other than the Heat fans, nobody was happy with it. LeBron never once thanked Cleveland for what the city had done for him and how they celebrated him as their king.
This is terrible. This is the worst thing that could ever happen to Cleveland.
I hope that LeBron doesn't win a championship in Miami.
However, what James did 24 hours after the decision was even worse. During the Heat's introductory press conference with Wade and Bosh, who also signed with Miami, LeBron arrogantly claimed the now infamous line,
Not 5, not 6, not 7.
Shaquille O'Neal signed with the Celtics, Carlos Boozer joined the Bulls, and Amari Stoudemire was traded to the Knicks after 8 seasons in Phoenix. From a coaching perspective, 11 teams changed head coaches, most notably the Chicago Bulls, who hired Tom Thibodeau, and the Pacers, who hired Frank Vogel. In the shadow of all the free agency news, the NBA draft was somewhat underwhelming, given a relatively weak draft class. John Wall was drafted 1st overall by the Wizards, the Kings selected DeMarcus Cousins with the 5th pick, Gordon Hayward went to Utah, and Paul George became a Pacer. Before the season started, the New Orleans Hornets were sold to the NBA, thus becoming the first franchise owned by the league, a move that would prove significant the following season. And when the basketball started, one NBA legend was forced to say goodbye to it forever. After playing just 5 games, Yao Ming suffered yet another foot injury, which forced his early retirement several weeks later.
Chinese basketball superstar Yao Ming has officially announced his retirement at the age of 30.
The Miami Heat also had a rough start, starting the season 8-7, highlighted by LeBron James body-checking Eric Spoelstra during a timeout. And then came December 2nd, which was LeBron's first game back in Cleveland. In the entire history of the NBA, no crowd had ever booed and trash-talked a player as much as the Cavs fans booed LeBron. But LeBron was cold as ice, showing zero emotion as he destroyed his former team with 38 points and 8 assists. This 28-point victory rejuvenated Miami's season. It was the 3rd win in a streak that eventually reached 12 games. However, the Heat surprisingly weren't leading the Eastern Conference, as a new superstar emerged in Chicago. Derrick Rose was only 22 years old and in his 3rd NBA season, but he was arguably the most athletic point guard ever, throwing some of the nastiest dunks in NBA history. The Knicks had plenty to be happy about, as Amari Stoudemire played like a man possessed, setting a franchise record with 9 consecutive 30-point games. And in the West, OKC's young trio of KD, Westbrook, and Harden became a dominant force, while Minnesota's Kevin Love started a 53-game streak of double-doubles, highlighted by a 31-point, 31-rebound game against the Knicks. But the team that was deprived of superstars for almost 30 years finally got theirs. Blake Griffin returned from his knee injury, and he did so with a bang, especially if you asked poor Timothy Mozgov. Averaging 22 points, 12 rebounds, and 4 assists per game, Blake became the first rookie to be named an All-Star since Yao Ming in 2003, and is still the most recent rookie All-Star to this day. However, Griffin wasn't done there. And at the All-Star weekend, the high-flying forward stole the show at the dunk contest. James Jones won the three-point contest over Paul Pierce, while Kobe Bryant won the All-Star MVP, his fourth time winning the award, which tied the NBA record. But prior to that All-Star weekend, a monumental record was broken. In a 92-86 loss to the Lakers, Ray Allen surpassed Reggie Miller as the all-time leader in three-pointers made.
Here's Allen with a deep three. Yes! Ray Allen.
With 2,562. And after the All-Star, the melodrama was finally over, as the Knicks agreed to a blockbuster 13-player deal with the Nuggets and the Timberwolves that brought Carmelo Anthony to New York.
The Carmelo Anthony trade saga is finally over. Anthony going to his desired destination, Madison Square Garden, play with the Knicks,
tying the NBA record for the most players traded in one transaction. And because of a fight with his All-Star point guard Deron Williams, Utah Jazz head coach Jerry Sloan resigned.
26 years is a long time to be in one organization, and I've been blessed, but today's a new day.
2 weeks later, the Jazz traded Williams to the New Jersey Nets for Devin Harris and Derek Favors. Washington got rid of Gilbert Arenas, trading him to Orlando for Rashard Lewis, while the OKC Thunder decided to bolster their front court with Kendrick Perkins, sending away Jeff Green to Boston.
The Celtics are about to trade Kendrick Perkins and Nate Robinson to Oklahoma City in exchange for Jeff Green and Nenad Kristich.
No, I don't believe that. That's not going to, no, that's not happening.
And after having the league's best record for 2 consecutive seasons, the Cavs lost an NBA record 26 straight games, further proving how bad the team was without LeBron. At the top of the East were the Chicago Bulls, which earned Tom Thibodeau a Coach of the Year award, while Derrick Rose won the MVP after averaging 25 points, 4 rebounds, and 7.7 assists per game. At the age of 22 years and 191 days,
you are the youngest MVP in NBA history.
Blake Griffin became only the 3rd player ever to win Rookie of the Year unanimously, after Ralph Sampson and David Robinson. Dwight Howard won the Defensive Player of the Year for the 3rd straight year, and after leading the league in rebounding with 15.2 boards per game, Kevin Love won the Most Improved Player award, while Lamar Odom became the best 6th man. KD won another scoring title, averaging 27.7 points per game. Steve Nash led the league in assists for the 5th and final time, and the greatest free throw shooter of all time led the league in free throw percentage for the first time. When the playoffs started, the excitement was palpable in New York, which had 2 All-Stars for the first time since the 90s.
The New York Knicks have clinched a playoff spot for the first time since 2004.
And had his first winning season since 2001. But the excitement was short-lived, as the Knicks were swept by the Boston Celtics, leaving New York without any depth. In the rest of the first-round series, the Heat easily beat the 76ers, while the Bulls defeated the Pacers. The only competitive series was between Orlando and Atlanta. And despite Howard averaging 27 points and 15 rebounds, the Hawks won in 6 games. In the West, the grit and grind era in Memphis started, with the 8th-seeded Grizzlies upsetting the conference top-seeded Spurs in 6 games. They became only the 4th 8th-seeded team to beat the 1st seed in the first round. And with their win over the Nuggets, the Oklahoma City Thunder won their first playoff series since relocating from Seattle. The Lakers defeated Chris Paul and the Hornets, while the Mavericks got past the Blazers in what were the last competitive games of Brandon Roy's career, who could have been a Hall of Famer if he had healthier knees. In the second round, Dirk and the Mavs surprised everyone by sweeping the defending champions, shooting lights out, and playing extraordinary team defense on Kobe Bryant. The Grizzlies played a phenomenal series against OKC, pushing it to Game 7, but in the end, talent trumped team effort, as Kevin Durant scored 39 points in the deciding game, and the Thunder advanced to the conference finals.
The talent that they have, the youth, the size, the physicality, it all came together, and that's why they're going to the Western Conference Finals.
In the East, LeBron finally broke the Celtics curse, defeating his arch-nemesis Paul Pierce in 5 games. Derrick Rose was an unsolvable mystery for the Hawks, averaging 30 points and 10 assists and leading the Bulls to their first conference finals since 1998. And in Game 1 against Miami, Bulls fans started to reminisce about their glory days, as Derrick Rose looked like the miniature Michael Jordan. Rose scored 28 points in a blowout victory, as he was too fast and too strong for any point guard in the league. But for the rest of the series, Miami's coach Eric Spoelstra made a key tactical adjustment, having LeBron guard Rose. LeBron could match Rose's speed, and with the extra 5 inches and 60 pounds, the reigning MVP couldn't overpower the old one. And that's what decided the series, with Rose shooting just 35% from the field, and Miami made the NBA Finals in 5 games. Everyone expected that Miami would play OKC in the finals, with their 3 young stars in KD, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden. But Dallas had Dirk, who played the best series of his career. In Game 1, Nowitzki scored 48 points on 12 of 15 shooting, and a historic 24 of 24 from the line, which was a playoff record for the most free throws without a miss. And despite a stellar play from their big 3 throughout the series, OKC couldn't keep up with Dallas's bench, and the Mavs advanced to their second NBA Finals. The Vegas bookmakers considered Miami as a 3-1 favorite, and were proved right after Game 1, which the Heat won 92-84, with their big 3 combining for 63 points. In Game 2, it was a similar story, as the Heat were up by 15 with 7 minutes remaining.
That's good! 3-pointer from Dwayne Wade, and the Heat have blown this game open.
LeBron and Wade already started celebrating, doing some shadow boxing near the Mavs bench. That seems to have pissed off Dallas players, who came back from the dead, capping off an 18-0 run. With the game tied, in the final possession, the ball ended up in the hands of Dirk Nowitzki, who did Dirk Nowitzki things.
Drives with a deep lefty layup, banks it in!
Miami bounced back and won Game 3 by 2 points in one of the rare instances that Dallas lost a close game. However, before Game 4, LeBron and Wade made another costly mistake, intentionally mocking Dirk, who was reported sick before the game.
Oh, did y'all hear me cough? I think I'm sick.
And when the game started, even if he was ill, Dirk played the best when it counted the most in the fourth quarter. Despite Miami entering the fourth with a 4-point lead, the Mavericks limited the Heat to just 14 points in the final period, ultimately winning 86-83. What was pivotal is how the Mavericks guarded LeBron, using a hybrid zone defense that took away his driving lanes, daring him to shoot off the dribble, which was the weakest part of James's game. And LeBron couldn't get into any kind of rhythm in isolation, was unable to penetrate off the dribble, and since he wasn't yet comfortable playing with his back to the basket and bullied Jason Kidd with his size, LeBron finished Game 4 with an appalling 8 points, a career low. And in Game 5, it was the same story. LeBron was unbelievably passive in the fourth quarter, scoring just 2 points and 17 for the game, while the Mavs shooters buried the Heat, shooting a scorching hot 70% from deep. The biggest hero was the Mavericks' backup point guard, J.J. Barea, who was an unsolvable mystery for Miami's defense, giving Dallas a huge boost off the bench with 17 points. However, in Game 6, LeBron played better while Dirk struggled. Nowitzki started the game going 1 for 12 in the first half and 4 for 21 during the first 3.5 quarters. But thanks to another great game from the 5'11" Barea and consistent shooting from Jason Terry, the Mavs still held an 81-77 lead with 8 minutes left, when their best player finally woke up. Dirk scored 10 points in the final 7 minutes, hitting 5 for 6 from the field to clinch the game and the championship for Dallas. It was one of the most clutch playoff runs in history, and some of Nowitzki's postseason stats were almost unreal. In the 50 minutes of clutch time during the playoffs, Dirk scored 66 points on a 77% true shooting percentage, including 15 of 28 from the field, and a surreal 33 of 34 from the free throw line. The Mavs outscored their opponents by 73 points in those 50 minutes, which was unheard of. The 2011 Finals may be remembered as LeBron's greatest failure, but the 2011 playoffs will forever be remembered as Dirk's masterpiece. Nowitzki averaged 27.7 points, 8.1 rebounds, and 2.5 assists on 48, 46, 94 shooting splits. And after a good cry in the locker room, he deservedly hoisted the Finals MVP trophy. Skip Bayless and the army of LeBron haters celebrated his downfall.
He's Robin more than he's Batman. He's Pippen more than he's Jordan.
But with today's knowledge, it was clear that the Mavs had the better team. And with a modern offense based on shooting, while the Heat still played with traditional bigs clogging the paint. Dallas had more shooters on the floor than any other team in the playoffs, and as a team, they shot 39.4% from 3 during the postseason, while Miami only shot 33%. The 2011 season was the beginning of the end for the old-school way of basketball, and the last year the league-wide three-point attempts went down. Ironically, one of the last dominant centers of the 90s retired from the NBA after the season ended.
Never thought this day would come, and Father Time has finally caught up with Shaquille O'Neal.
and announced that he'd joined the best sports show in TV history.
The other guy needs to be replaced, and when I retire, he will be replaced.
Talk about Kitty?
Oh, yeah, that's right, Kitty. I'm coming for you, Kitty.
Also, Phil Jackson retired from coaching, stepping down as the NBA's winningest coach with 11 championship rings. But going into the following season, fans around the world would have to wait a bit longer than usual to see more NBA basketball. Due to negotiations on the new collective bargaining agreement, the NBA's second longest lockout began.
Well, the NBA will tell you that 22 of the 30 teams in the league have been losing approximately $300 million or a little bit more than that.
On July 1st, 2011, and ended on December 8th, lasting for 161 days and reducing the regular season to 66 games. On the day the lockout ended, the Lakers, Rockets, and Hornets agreed to a trade that would send Chris Paul to Los Angeles. But in an unprecedented move, the NBA Commissioner David Stern vetoed the trade, saying the Hornets were better off keeping Paul than accepting the terms of the deal. 5 days later, CP3 was finally traded to LA, but to the Clippers, in a deal that was actually worse for the Hornets. But that was done intentionally. The NBA wanted the Hornets to tank and acquire a top pick in the next year's draft, even though David Stern and the NBA offered a very different explanation for the initial trade being nullified.
I didn't veto anything. Acting on behalf of the owners, as the owners' rep, New Orleans decided not to make the trade.
The other most notable offseason trade was Tyson Chandler joining the Knicks, while Lamar Odom got traded to the Mavericks. And even though it wasn't considered a big deal at the time, the Spurs traded point guard George Hill for the 15th pick of the draft, Kawhi Leonard, who would become arguably the best player in the draft. The Rockets hired Kevin McHale as their head coach, Dwayne Casey became the Raptors' new head coach, and Mike Brown replaced Phil Jackson as the Lakers' new head coach. The season finally started on Christmas Day 2011, which brought plenty of highlights. Miami avenged their loss to the Mavs, with LeBron looking better and stronger than ever, dominating with 37 points, 10 rebounds, and 6 assists. Carmelo Anthony scored 37 points in a Knicks win over the Celtics, and Derrick Rose scored a game winner to beat the Lakers. In January, Dwight Howard attempted a regular season record 39 free throws against the Warriors, breaking Wilt Chamberlain's record of 34 set in 1962. However, the whole season for Dwight and the Magic got dubbed the Dwightmare due to the center's trade request that ominously loomed around the franchise's future. Howard spent half of the season trying to get coach Stan Van Gundy fired, highlighted by one of the most awkward press conferences in NBA history.
That's the plan, right?
That is the plan. That's what I just said. Are you guys done with me?
That's all.
You can talk to him now.
And if we're talking about awkward hairlines, there were none more awkward than Carlos Boozer's, who famously painted his bald head. But for some other teams and players, things weren't awkward at all. With the addition of Chris Paul, the Clippers soon got nicknamed Lob City due to countless lob dunks CP threw to high-flying big men Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan. With their new big three, the Clippers finished the season 40-26 and made the playoffs for the first time since 2006. But the biggest story of the season was the one no one could have predicted. On February 4th, the Knicks lost 3 guards due to injury, and this skinny Asian kid, whom only the most hardcore NBA fans even knew about, got the chance to play to save his career. Jeremy Lin played a total of 330 minutes of NBA basketball across 2 seasons, mostly in garbage time, averaging 3 points per game. But then, playing against All-Star Deron Williams, Lin exploded for a game-high 25 points, including 12 points in the fourth quarter, to seal the 99-92 win for the Knicks. Knicks coach Mike D'Antoni then promoted Lin to a starting lineup, and in his first 5 games as a starter, Lin scored more points than anybody since 1975, including 38 points against Kobe and the Lakers, and the game winner against the Raptors. In a span of 2 weeks, Lin went from a virtual nobody sleeping on his brother's couch to a global superstar in what will forever be known as the Linsanity. And even though he wasn't as popular as Lin, one rookie guard dazzled with moves we'd never seen before, announcing his aim to the throne of the best ball handler of all time. Kyrie Irving was the first pick of the 2011 NBA draft, in what was one of the deepest draft classes of the decade. Other than Kyrie, 6 future All-Stars were selected: Jimmy Butler, Kawhi Leonard, Isaiah Thomas, Klay Thompson, Nikola Vukovic, and Kemba Walker. Kyrie was named Rookie of the Year in a landslide over Ricky Rubio, who was originally drafted in 2009. During the All-Star weekend, Utah's Jeremy Evans won the pretty uninspiring slam dunk contest. Kevin Love was the three-point champion, while Kevin Durant won the MVP, in a game that will be remembered for Kobe locking up LeBron during its final stretch. But the King more than made up for it by adding more muscle and working with Hakeem Olajuwon, averaging 27, 8, and 6 for the season, with career highs in efficiency and the best defense of his career, for which he was named the league MVP for the third time. Tyson Chandler won the Defensive Player of the Year award, while James Harden was named the best sixth man in the league. KD won the scoring title for the third consecutive season. Dwight was the leading rebounder for the fourth time, while Rajon Rondo led all passers with 11.7 assists per game. Charlotte Bobcats set the record for the worst winning percentage in a season at .106, 7 for 59.
Charlotte this year is, awful beyond words. They may be the worst team that I have ever witnessed,
surpassing the record previously held by the 1973 Philadelphia 76ers. But before the regular season ended, the Golden State Warriors nearly made the biggest mistake in franchise history after they dealt Steph Curry to Milwaukee for a former #1 pick, Andrew Bogut. Thankfully for them, the Bucks doctors nixed the trade due to concerns about Curry's ankles, which he injured multiple times earlier in his career. Eventually, fan favorite Monte Ellis was sent to Milwaukee instead of Curry, which was met with huge protests from Warriors fans, as nobody fully grasped what kind of revolution Steph would start in the years ahead. The Bulls once again led the Eastern Conference with 50 wins, the same as the Spurs in the West, who had a 50-win season for the 13th straight time, even with a shortened schedule. Greg Popovich became one of the first coaches to implement the infamous load management with Tim Duncan, simply saying that he was old. But when the playoffs started, one injury changed the course of a franchise. In Game 1 of the first round of the Eastern Conference between the Bulls and the Sixers, Derrick Rose drove to the lane with power, like he did 1,000 times before. Only this time, he landed awkwardly and stayed lying on the floor. With his ACL torn, the Bulls' season went down the drain.
Derrick Rose has a torn ACL suffered in Game 1 of the Bulls' first-round playoff series against the Sixers.
And they lost the series in 6 games, joining the list of top-seeded teams that lost in the first round. And despite their best regular season in this millennium, the New York Knicks couldn't do much against LeBron and the Heat, losing the series in 5 games, especially after Amari stupidly punched the glass in the tunnel after a Game 2 loss.
Amari Stoudemire apparently punched a fire extinguisher or the glass that covered a fire extinguisher and badly cut his hand.
In the West, it took Kobe 7 games to get past the feisty Nuggets, and their hometown neighbors also needed 7 games to defeat the Grizzlies. OKC made quick work of the defending champs, sweeping the Mavericks, while the Spurs did the same against the Jazz. The second round offered another Spurs sweep, who took care of the Clippers, while the Thunder needed one more game to get past the Lakers. In the East, Boston survived the 76ers' efforts and made the conference finals in 7 games. But the most interesting matchup was between Miami and Indiana, where the Heat lost Chris Bosh due to abdominal injury in Game 1.
The Heat say Bosh is out indefinitely
and had to rely on LeBron and D-Wade to bail him out. And despite a valiant effort from Paul George and the rest of the Pacers, the Heat superstars were too good. LeBron averaged 30 and Wade added 26 to push the Heat in the next round after 6 games. But in the conference finals against Boston, it looked like LeBron was going to fail once again, as the Celtics took a 3-2 lead, fueled by Pierce's clutch 3 over LeBron that decided Game 5. And then, staring into the abyss of another embarrassing playoff loss to his biggest nemesis, LeBron delivered the performance of his life. For the first time ever, James was not looking to pass the ball. Instead, he kept hitting shot after shot, dismantling the Celtics' 4 All-Stars with 45 points, 15 rebounds, and 5 assists. It was easily the best and most dominant game of his career. But LeBron wasn't done yet, because he followed it up with 31 points and 12 rebounds in Game 7 and closed out the series. In the West, it looked like San Antonio would advance to the finals after winning the first 2 games of the series, but then OKC won the next 4, with KD, Russ, and Harden scoring 66 points per game combined. The finals were a matchup between the 2 most athletic teams in the league, and the Thunder landed the first punch, beating Miami in Game 1 with 36 points from KD. The next 3 games all came down to the final few possessions, but each time LeBron and the Heat found ways to win, until finally, in Game 5, they blew out the Thunder completely. And after all the doubt and scrutiny, LeBron was finally a champion, and deservedly won the finals MVP, averaging 28 points, 10 rebounds, and 7 assists in the series. In the summer, LeBron was also the best player at the 2012 Olympics in London, leading Team USA to another gold medal against Spain. The Olympic team consisted of 11 NBA stars, and for the first time since the Dream Team, it also had 1 collegiate player.
What are y'all doing with this rookie, man? Is he carrying the bags?
It was the first pick of the 2012 NBA draft, Anthony Davis, who dominated the NCAA, winning the title with Kentucky. AD was selected by the New Orleans Hornets, who got what they and the league wished for in what became another NBA lottery conspiracy theory. Bradley Beal was selected 3rd overall by the Wizards. Damian Lillard was drafted 6th by the Blazers, while the Pistons selected Andre Drummond with the 9th pick. The rest of the lottery was filled with busts. But this draft class had a few gems in the second round. The Warriors selected Draymond Green with the 35th pick, while Chris Middleton became an All-Star despite getting drafted at number 39. Notable coaching changes include the Orlando Magic, who fired Stan Van Gundy, the Lakers, who hired Mike D'Antoni, and the Blazers, who employed Terry Stotts, who'd stay with the franchise for the next 9 years. However, the biggest news happened on the trade market, as the best center in the NBA changed his address. In a blockbuster 4-team trade, Dwight Howard followed Shaq's footsteps and joined the Lakers.
It looks like Dwight Howard is on the move. Howard going to the Lakers.
LA then sent Andrew Bynum to the Philadelphia 76ers, who in turn sent Andre Iguodala to the Denver Nuggets. Another trade also netted the Lakers franchise star point guard Steve Nash from the Phoenix Suns. But the Dwight trade had been cooking for months and didn't surprise anybody. However, just 3 days before the start of the regular season, another monumental trade shocked the world. Because they didn't want to give him a maximum $60 million extension, fearing the salary cap wouldn't increase and that they would get into the luxury tax, the OKC Thunder traded James Harden to the Rockets in exchange for Kevin Martin, Jeremy Lamb, and future draft picks, which proved to be one of the worst decisions of the decade. Other notable players who were also traded included Kyle Lowry, who moved to Toronto, Joe Johnson, who became a Net after 7 seasons in Atlanta, and Kyle Korver, who was traded to the Hawks. Free agency was also super interesting, and the biggest name that switched teams was Ray Allen, who signed with the Heat, a move which wasn't well received by his former Celtics teammates.
Have you had a chance to talk to him since he made his decision? I don't have Ray's number.
Jamal Crawford joined the Clippers, Jason Kidd became a Knick, Jeremy Lin signed with the Rockets, and Jason Terry joined the Celtics, where he would become a victim of one of the nastiest dunks of all time. The New Jersey Nets moved to Brooklyn and became the Brooklyn Nets, now playing at the Barclays Center.
It is my honor to welcome Brooklyn, USA to the NBA.
And when the season started, it didn't take long for Ray Allen to prove his class for Miami, as he hit a game winner in the 3rd game of the season. It also took 3 games for everyone in Oklahoma to realize what a colossal mistake they made, as James Harden averaged 35, 6, and 6 in his first 3 games with Houston. On December 5th, 2012, Kobe Bryant became the 5th player in NBA history to score 30,000 career points in a win against New Orleans. 1 month later, his teammate Steve Nash became the 5th player to reach 10,000 career assists. But despite a Hall of Fame lineup, the Lakers were the biggest disappointment of the season. Dwight didn't recover sufficiently from the back surgery, and he never found a common language with Kobe and Nash. And despite Meta World Peace announcing they could go 73-9, the Lakers hovered around 500. During the last month of the season, Kobe was averaging over 40 minutes per game, doing everything he could to help the Lakers make the playoffs. But he paid a hefty price for that insane workload. On April 12, 2013, in the 4th quarter of a close game against Golden State, Bryant fell down on a drive against Harrison Barnes. His Achilles was torn, and Kobe knew immediately. But like he famously said in a press conference once,
"Job's not finished."
Kobe stepped on the line with tears in his eyes, but he still nailed both freebies and then walked off the court on his own with a broken Achilles tendon. To make a dreadful season even worse, the Lakers owner Jerry Buss passed away.
Jerry Buss, part owner of the Lakers, passed away over the weekend at the age of 80. He died due to complications related to cancer.
But while the Lakers were coming to their downfall, just like the Mavericks who missed the playoffs for the first time in 12 years, new contenders emerged in the West. The 2013 season was a coming out party for Steph Curry, and his first truly mesmerizing game happened on February 27th, where he scored 54 points against the Knicks. Those 54 points Curry had were the 3rd highest total by a Knicks opponent in Madison Square Garden, and the most points by any player that season. Golden State made the playoffs for the first time in 6 seasons, while Curry broke the NBA single-season record for most three-pointers with 272 threes, breaking the record of 269 set by Ray Allen. Curry and teammate Klay Thompson set the record for most three-pointers by a duo with 483, 48 more than the previous record. In the East, the Bulls fell in the standings without Derrick Rose, just like the Celtics, who lost Rajon Rondo, who also tore his ACL. Knee problems were also the main news in Philadelphia, as their prized center Andrew Bynum missed the entire season due to various knee injuries, while deciding the best way to make up for it was to experiment with the worst hairstyles in the history of mankind. But on the other hand, the Knicks thrived and had their best season since 1997, winning 54 games and finishing second in the East, while setting an NBA record in three-pointers made in a season with 891. Carmelo Anthony got the scoring title over Kevin Durant, averaging 28.7 points per game, while J.R. Smith won the Sixth Man of the Year award, highlighted by one of the best in-game dunks ever. Still, the top of the Eastern Conference was reserved for LeBron James and the Miami Heat. James elevated his game once more and was head and shoulders above every other player in the league, including a 6-game streak of 30-point games with over 60% shooting from the field. That hot streak came during an incredible Miami win streak, as the Heat eventually won 27 games in a row, the second highest in NBA history. Miami won a franchise record 66 games, and their switching defense, playing with small ball lineups with 4 shooters surrounding LeBron, was revolutionary and would later become a staple of NBA tactics. For the season, James averaged 27, 8, and 7, shooting a career-high 56% from the field and 40% for 3. And he should have been the first unanimous MVP in league history. But one Boston reporter gave his vote to Carmelo, robbing James of a perfect regular season. However, LeBron felt that he also got robbed for the Defensive Player of the Year award, as he was easily the most versatile defender in the NBA that season, and probably the entire NBA history. James was the only player who could efficiently guard all 5 positions, but in the end, he came up second in voting for Defensive Player of the Year, while Marc Gasol won the award. Damian Lillard was voted the Rookie of the Year ahead of Anthony Davis, and Lillard became just the 4th player to win the award unanimously. Paul George was voted as the Most Improved Player, as the Pacers took 3rd place in the East, while Denver's coach, George Karl, got the Coach of the Year award, after leading the Nuggets to 57 wins and 3rd place in the West. OKC clinched the top seed in the conference, largely thanks to the stellar play of Kevin Durant, who averaged 28, 8, and 5, while becoming just the 6th player to join the 50-40-90 club. During the All-Star weekend, Chris Paul was named the All-Star MVP, while Brandon Knight experienced one of the most embarrassing cases of broken ankles. Earlier in the season, Kyrie starred in the famous Uncle Drew commercial, doing the same thing tonight in real life. And just a few weeks later, poor Brandon was on the receiving end of another highlight, with one of the most embarrassing dunks of all time. And during the first round of the playoffs, the Wizards center Jason Collins made history. Posting an article on Sports Illustrated, Collins came out as gay, becoming the first active male athlete from one of the 4 major American professional team sports to publicly do so.
After the immediate media frenzy, it's going to be all right, so what? And it will help the next athlete that wants to do the same thing.
On the basketball side of things, the Spurs swept the Kobe-less Lakers, the Grizzlies put Lob City to the ground, beating the Clippers in 6 games, and the Warriors did the same against the Nuggets. The Thunder also needed 6 games to get past Harden and the Rockets, but the win came at a huge cost because Russell Westbrook tore his meniscus after a collision with Pat Beverly and was ruled out for the playoffs.
If they have to sew it and fix it, you're talking 6-8 weeks minimum.
Without Russ, the Thunder fell to the Grizzlies in the second round, while the Warriors put up a great effort against the Spurs, but ultimately lost in 6 games. Back east, the Knicks won the first playoff series in 13 years against Boston, but their dream season ended in the second round against the surging Pacers, while Miami had no problem against the Bucks and the Bulls. However, in their second consecutive matchup against Indiana, it was clear that the Pacers were gonna give Miami problems. With Roy Hibbert and David West in the paint, Paul George and Lance Stevenson on the perimeter, Indiana had enough size and agility to disrupt Miami's offense. And in Game 1, it looked like they would upset the home favorite. But then, LeBron James did this.
James on the drive for the win!
Eventually, the Pacers pushed Miami to 7 games, but in the deciding contest, the Heat's superstars dominated, and Miami earned a 3rd straight finals berth. Out west, the Grizzlies were no match for the San Antonio Spurs, who ousted them in 4 quick games. The 2013 finals went down as one of the best in league history, even though 4 out of the first 5 games weren't close, excluding Game 1, which the Spurs won thanks to Tony Parker's clutch shot. And with a 3-2 series lead, San Antonio dominated Game 6 with a double-digit lead for much of the night. But then LeBron James lost his headband and started playing like a man possessed. The King fought tooth and nail to save Miami's season, and he gave his team a fighting chance. However, his heroic performance seemed to be in vain, with the Spurs leading by 5 in the final minute. But then, James made a 3-pointer to cut the lead to 2, and after the Spurs missed a free throw, the Heat still had one more chance to tie the game. And what happened next was pure cinema.
Back out to Allen, his three-pointer. Bang!
In overtime, the Spurs ran out of steam, and Miami escaped with a victory. But it wasn't over yet. In Game 7, neither team was able to build a big lead, and Miami had only a 2-point advantage in the final minute. But then, LeBron grabbed the ball and calmly hit a game-winning shot over Kawhi to secure another championship for Miami.
James pulls up, puts it in, 4-point lead.
James finished with 37 points and was deservedly named the Finals MVP, averaging 25 points, 11 rebounds, 7 assists, and 2.3 steals for the series, nearly leading both teams in all 4 categories. But before the start of the new season, almost half the league made significant changes, as 13 teams hired new head coaches. Doc Rivers left the Celtics and signed with the Clippers, while Brad Stevens became Boston's new head coach. Tracy McGrady, Grant Hill, and Jason Kidd retired from playing, with Kidd instantly transitioning into coaching, making his coaching debut with the Brooklyn Nets. But the Nets weren't done there, shocking the world by trading for the Celtics' aging superstars Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and Jason Terry. KG, Pierce, and Terry were a combined 110 years old and were on one-year deals, but the Nets still paid a king's ransom, 5 players and 4 first-round picks, which later turned into Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. But even though it was one of the worst trades of all time, one team made an equally big mistake by drafting the worst first-round pick ever.
The Cleveland Cavaliers select.
It was Anthony Bennett, whom the Cavaliers selected first in front of players like Giannis Antetokounmpo, Victor Oladipo, and Rudy Gobert. But other than the 3 players we just mentioned, along with some other quality players like CJ McCollum, Steven Adams, Dennis Schroeder, and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, the 2013 draft was one of the worst classes of this millennium, and certainly the weakest in the entire decade. The New Orleans Hornets officially renamed their franchise to the New Orleans Pelicans, while the Charlotte Bobcats announced the franchise would be renamed to the Charlotte Hornets, starting in the 2015 season. Dwight Howard shunned the Lakers and signed with the Rockets, Andre Iguodala came to Golden State, J.J. Redick joined the Clippers, and Paul Millsap signed with the Hawks, in what was a relatively quiet free agency. On October 29th, the regular season opened with a record 92 international players on opening night rosters, while the San Antonio Spurs set an NBA record with 10 international players. In December, Kyle Korver broke the NBA record of most consecutive games with a three-pointer with a 127-game streak, while Antoine Jameson became the 39th player to score over 20,000 points. To promote games on Christmas Day, the NBA released Jingle Hoops.
Dunk that.
One of the most memorable NBA commercials of all time. A few weeks later, the league experimented with players' nicknames on the back of their jerseys, instead of their usual last names. The highest scoring game of the season was a mid-range masterpiece from Carmelo Anthony, who had 62 points against Charlotte, which was his career high and the Knicks' all-time record. A few months after Carmelo torched Charlotte, LeBron did the same, lighting up the Bobcats for 61 points, which was his career high and Miami's franchise record. Corey Brewer and Terrence Ross became the most unlikely guys to ever score 50 in a game, each finishing with 51 points in games against the Clippers and the Rockets. Ross recorded the lowest season scoring average in the year of a 50-point game, averaging only 10.9 points. On February 1st, the legendary NBA commissioner David Stern retired after leading the NBA for 30 years. Adam Silver took his place as commissioner, with Mark Tatum as deputy commissioner. Kyrie Irving won the MVP of the All-Star Game, while Kevin Hart won the first MVP of roasting Kenny and Chuck in a post-game presser.
Kenny in here drills like a pastor that ain't make it.
Further establishing Inside the NBA as the funniest sports show on television. In March, Phil Jackson returned to active duty in the NBA, taking the role of team president for the Knicks, a position that earned him $60 million over 5 years. Despite his acumen and basketball knowledge, though, Jackson wasn't successful, trying to implement the outdated triangle offense, beefing with LeBron James.
I don't think there's anybody hurt or harmed in this situation. I think, LeBron's friend obviously had an issue with it.
And setting a franchise record with 16 consecutive losses and the worst season in Knicks history, before he was ultimately fired in 2017. But if the Knicks had it bad, then the Sixers had it even worse.
The Philadelphia 76ers are on the verge of history, but it's not the part of history that any team wants to be in.
Tying the NBA record with 26 consecutive losses. Despite the poor results, though, their rookie Michael Carter-Williams was voted Rookie of the Year. Joakim Noah won the Defensive Player of the Year award, helping the Bulls win 48 games even without Derrick Rose, who injured his other knee, playing only 10 games of the season after missing the entire 2013. Miami took a step down, winning 12 fewer games than the previous year, with the Paul George-led Pacers taking their place as the first seed seed in the East. In the West, Kobe Bryant made a record return from an Achilles tear in December, 8 months after the injury.
I don't know how I'm going to be moving. I don't know, how I'm going to be jumping. I have no idea.
However, due to a microfracture in his knee, Kobe appeared in just 6 games.
Kobe Bryant will be out 6 weeks after injuring his knee yet again.
And the Lakers won just 27 games, missing the playoffs only for the second time in Bryant's career. That Lakers season can be perfectly described with Nick Young's celebration after a three-pointer that almost went in. The Suns also missed the playoffs despite winning 48 games, led by point guards Eric Bledsoe and Goran Dragic, who averaged 20 points per game and won the Most Improved Player award. The San Antonio Spurs had the best record in the league with 62 wins, including a franchise record 18 consecutive wins. The Thunder weren't too far behind with 59 wins, despite Russell Westbrook missing half the season. But that gave Kevin Durant more usage, and KD won his 4th scoring title with a career-high 32 points per game. KD also became a better all-around player, averaging 7.4 rebounds and a career-high 5.5 assists, which made him the league MVP, after which Kevin gave one of the most heartwarming speeches in sports history.
You sacrificed for us. You're the real MVP.
Jamal Crawford averaged 18.6 points off the bench, which earned him his second Sixth Man of the Year award, in what was a really successful year for the Clippers, as DeAndre Jordan led the league in rebounding and field goal percentage, while Chris Paul led the NBA in assists and steals, his 6th time that he was the league leader in steals, which is an NBA record. But even though they won a franchise record 57 games, the Clippers season will forever be remembered by the Donald Sterling scandal. The longtime Clippers owner was heard making racist comments on a leaked audio recording to his girlfriend, causing the NBA to launch an investigation. In his first major decision as commissioner, Adam Silver banned Sterling for life and fined him $2.5 million.
Effective immediately, I am banning Mr. Sterling for life.
When the playoffs started, the first round was arguably the most competitive of all time, with 5 series decided in 7 games, while the Blazers defeated the Rockets in 6 thanks to a series-clinching buzzer beater by Damian Lillard.
He got the shot off! Oh my God! Good! And the Blazers win the series!
The Thunder and the Grizzlies went into overtime in 4 consecutive games, but the newly crowned MVP was too much for Memphis, and the Thunder advanced after 7 grueling matches. The Clippers survived hot shooting from the Warriors to defeat them in another 7-game series, just like the Spurs, who got past the Monte Ellis-led Mavericks. In the East, the Nets super team won 104-103 in Game 7 against Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan's Raptors.
On the deck, through 2, Lowry put it up, it's blocked by Pierce, and the Nets win the series!
While the Pacers needed 7 games to defeat the Hawks. The only dominant victors in the first round were Miami, who swept Charlotte, and the Wizards, who defeated the Bulls in 5 games. In the conference semis, LeBron James bullied the Nets, once again defeating Pierce and Garnett, while the Pacers got the better of John Wall's Wizards. The Spurs and the Thunder advanced after beating the Clippers and the Blazers, meaning the top 2 seeds made the conference finals in both the East and the West. In a tough defensive series, in which both teams averaged fewer than 100 points and made fewer than 10 three-pointers, the Heat defeated the Pacers for a 3rd year in a row, advancing to the finals in a 4th consecutive season.
We're going to 4 straight finals, and we will never take this for granted.
In the West, the series was tied after 4 games, but the Thunder couldn't contain the Spurs' balanced scoring, who had 6 players averaging double figures, and we got a finals rematch between Miami and San Antonio. The Spurs won Game 1 in what will forever be remembered as the game where the arena's air conditioning went down, causing LeBron James to cramp up and preventing him from playing in the 4th quarter.
This is showing a little bit of melodramatic mental weakness. Nobody does that. He made such a show of, take me out, coach.
Miami then won a close Game 2, but that was all they could do. With their quick passes, ball and player movement, Miami's trapping defense didn't work because they simply couldn't rotate fast enough. And even though LeBron shot 57% from the field and 52% from 3 in the series, he didn't have enough help from Wade and Bosh, often looking helpless with no reliable offensive option. The Spurs shot 53% from the field and 47% for 3 in the finals, beating Miami Miami in 5 games and celebrating their 5th NBA championship. Thanks to his suffocating defense and unreal shooting percentages, 61% from the field and 58% from 3, Kawhi Leonard was deservedly named the Finals MVP. But this title was special because it was a complete team effort, with San Antonio playing arguably the most beautiful basketball in NBA history.
I hope the kids at home and their youth coaches just tape that possession and show it on an endless loop.
And before the next season geared up, 12 NBA stars joined Team USA to play in the 2014 World Cup, highlighted by the return of Derrick Rose, who only played in 10 games in the previous 2 seasons. But on August 1st, during training camp, we'd see arguably the worst injury ever on any level of basketball, when Paul George suffered a compound fracture of both bones in his lower right leg. However, despite losing George and KD, who withdrew from the team, Team USA convincingly won the gold medal, with Kyrie Irving named the tournament MVP. Kyrie had plenty to be happy about, since he got a new teammate during the summer who decided to return home to Cleveland as a free agent.
The moment LeBron's decision was revealed just before 12:30 this afternoon, fans downtown around the Q went into a frenzy.
James's homecoming was nothing short of spectacular, and everyone greeted him like he never left. And apart from LeBron's return, the Cavs also had the first pick in the draft for a second consecutive season, deciding to draft Andrew Wiggins, one of the most athletic players in draft history. However, apart from the Summer League, Wiggins never suited up for the Cavs, as he was soon traded to Minnesota, along with the other number 1 pick, Anthony Bennett, for an all-star power forward, Kevin Love. The Cavs formed a new Big Three and hired a new coach, David Blatt. But they weren't the only team making significant changes. The Warriors fired Mark Jackson and hired Steve Kerr, who would soon become one of the most successful coaches in NBA history. Jason Kidd joined the Bucks after the Nets fallout, while Derek Fisher retired from playing and became a head coach for the Knicks. Other notable players who retired in 2014 include Steve Nash, Rip Hamilton, Chauncey Billups, and Shane Battier. In free agency, Tyson Chandler returned to Dallas, Jeremy Lin joined the Lakers, Pau Gasol moved to Chicago, Paul Pierce became a Wizard, and Isaiah Thomas signed with the Suns. However, because they already had 2 point guards, the Suns traded Thomas to the Celtics mid-season, who in turn moved Rajon Rondo to Dallas, while the Cavs acquired J.R. Smith and Iman Shumpert from the Knicks. The Cavs duo had a revenge play against their former team, as Shumpert assisted J.R. on this crazy reverse dunk. Kevin Garnett returned home to Minnesota, while the Clippers traded for Austin Rivers, the son of their head coach Doc Rivers, and Austin became the first son to play for his father in NBA history. A total of 43 players were traded at the trade deadline. And apart from Andrew Wiggins, the 2014 draft had several big names, including Joel Embiid, Aaron Gordon, Zach LaVine, Marcus Smart, and Julius Randle. However, the best player in the draft was selected with the 41st pick during a Taco Bell commercial, as nobody thought that the pudgy Serbian big man would become one of the best players in NBA history. The San Antonio Spurs made history by hiring Becky Hammon as the first full-time female assistant coach in any of the 4 major U.S. professional sports leagues. On October 6th, the NBA announced a new 9-year TV deal with ESPN and TNT worth $24 billion. Starting in the 2015-16 NBA season, the NBA's TV revenue increased from $930 million to $2.6 billion per year, which would also increase each team's salary cap from $63 million to around $89 million, by far the largest spike in NBA history. When the season started, several marquee players hit career milestones, like Dwight Howard, who became the 3rd youngest player to reach 10,000 career rebounds. But no milestone was bigger than what happened on December 14th, when Kobe Bryant passed Michael Jordan for 3rd place on the all-time scoring list. On January 23rd, Klay Thompson scored an NBA record 37 points in a quarter, shooting a perfect 13 for 13 from the field and 9 for 9 from three-point range in the 3rd quarter of a 126-101 win over the Sacramento Kings. He broke the previous record of 33 points, held by George Gervin and Carmelo Anthony, and set a league record for a quarter with 9 three-pointers. January was good for breaking records, because the Atlanta Hawks won all 17 games they played that month, posting the first perfect month in NBA history. All 5 of their starters were voted Players of the Month, and 4 of them were voted to the All-Star game. The Hawks won 60 games and finished with the number #1 seed, their first 60-win season in franchise history, and the biggest surprise of the season. In February, Anthony Davis hit his only 3 of the season, but it was a huge one, not only because it was a game winner, but also because it gave the Pelicans a tiebreaker over the Thunder, which proved crucial since both teams had identical records at the end of the season. During the All-Star weekend, Zach LaVine delighted the crowd and murdered the rim with every attempt, deservingly becoming the dunk champion. Steph Curry won the three-point contest, and in the Sunday game, the Gasol brothers, Mark and Pau, were selected as the starting center of the East and the West, marking the first time in NBA history the two brothers were picked to start in an All-Star game. Russell Westbrook scored 41 points, 1 point shy of Wilt's All-Star record, and took home the MVP trophy. On March 5th, Craig Sager returned to the sidelines after being away for much of the season battling cancer. Sager was beloved by everyone around the NBA, and he even managed to warm the heart of the biggest hater of sideline interviews, Coach Pop.
This is the first time I've enjoyed doing this ridiculous interview we're required to do. And it's because you're here and you're back with us.
1 month later, on April 5th, will always be the second NBA debut for Paul George, who returned from a devastating injury sooner than everyone expected, making a tough jumper on his first attempt. The MVP race came down to 2 players, James Harden and Steph Curry. Harden led the Rockets to 56 wins with 2 50-point games and 8 more games where he scored 40-plus, averaging 27, 6, and 7 for the season. Curry averaged 24, 4, and 8, but he was more efficient, and his Warriors won 67 games, which led the league. Steph also broke his own record for most three-pointers made in a season with 286. Furthermore, the things he was doing were something we've never seen before, like the step-back triple that left Steve Kerr in disbelief, or the time he embarrassed Chris Paul. In the end, Curry received 100 out of 130 first-place votes, winning his first MVP over Harden and LeBron. Andrew Wiggins was named Rookie of the Year, while Kawhi won the Defensive Player of the Year ahead of Draymond Green, despite Green winning more first-place votes. Draymond also finished second in voting for the Most Improved Player, behind Jimmy Butler, who had a breakout season with the Bulls, while Toronto's Lou Williams won Sixth Man of the Year. Russell Westbrook led the league in scoring with 28.1 points per game, but in the absence of Durant, who missed the majority of the season due to a foot fracture, the Thunder missed the playoffs for the first time in 6 years. Westbrook became the first scoring leader since Tracy McGrady in 2004 to miss the postseason.
What's the scoring title mean to you? Doesn't mean nothing. Good job, hooray. I'm at home, watching other teams play.
The Knicks and the Lakers suffered their first 60-loss seasons in franchise history, which wasn't well received by Kobe Bryant, who trash-talked his teammates in a legendary leaked video from practice. And unlike the previous season, only one first-round playoff series required 7 games between the Spurs and the Clippers. In Game 7, Blake Griffin had a triple-double, while Chris Paul added 27 points, including a series-clinching game winner. The Rockets and the Grizzlies needed 5 games to get past Dallas and Portland, while Golden State swept Anthony Davis and the Pelicans. The Cavs swept against the Celtics, ditto for Washington, who swept the Raptors. The Bulls, who finally had Derrick Rose back healthy, despite another meniscus tear during the season, defeated the Bucks in 6 games, just like Atlanta, who got past Brooklyn. But in the conference semis, it got a lot more competitive. Despite having a 3-1 series lead and a big lead in Game 5, the Clippers managed to blow it, falling to the Rockets in 7 games, making them the 9th team to lose a series after leading 3-1. The Warriors were losing 2-1 against the Grizzlies when Steve Kerr made a key tactical adjustment by deciding to ignore Tony Allen. Allen was arguably the best perimeter defender in the game, but he couldn't hit an ocean from a boat. And by choosing to leave him open, the Warriors became unpenetrable in the paint, while Allen kept missing shots. Golden State won the next 3 games and advanced to its first conference finals since 1976. In the East, the Wizards took a 2-1 series lead against the Hawks, with Paul Pierce hitting one of the most memorable shots of his career.
Did you call bank? I call game.
But that was the last Wizards win, as the Hawks won the next 3 and advanced in 6 games, keeping Washington out of the conference finals since 1979. And the best series of the second round was between Cleveland and Chicago. The Cavs played without Kevin Love, who dislocated his shoulder in the first round after a tangle with Kelly Olynyk. Kyrie was also playing hurt, struggling with a knee injury, and the Bulls took a 2-1 series lead thanks to a vintage performance by Derrick Rose in Game 3, who scored 30 points, including the game winner.
Fires away. Bang! It's over!
It looked like the Bulls could win Game 4 with another 30-point game from Rose, but the Cavs still had the last shot to try to win the game. David Blatt drew a play for J.R. Smith, but LeBron said scratch that and took the last shot.
For the win! It's gone!
The Bulls never recovered after that, and Cleveland advanced to the conference finals for the first time since 2009. And if anyone expected to get a competitive series in the conference finals, they got disappointed, as the Cavs swept the first-seeded Hawks, while the Warriors needed 5 games to get past James Harden and the Rockets. Game 1 of the finals was decided in overtime, after Steph Curry got blocks by Kyrie with the game tied, and then LeBron failed to sink the game winner on the other end. However, in the OT, Irving got hurt, injuring the knee that had been bothering him the entire postseason. And without Irving, the Cavs lost 108-100, and it seemed like their title hopes were lost without 2 of their 3 best players. But an unexpected hero showed up, and he played some of the hardest defense we've ever seen. Matthew Dellavedova, aka Delly, stepped up big time, guarding and bothering Steph Curry like his life depended on it. Thanks to Delly and huge performances by LeBron, the Cavs turned the series around and took a 2-1 series lead. But then Steve Kerr made another key adjustment by putting Andre Iguodala in the starting lineup instead of Andrew Bogut, while Draymond Green started playing center. With their small ball lineup, also known as the Death Lineup, the Warriors gained speed, shooting, and great perimeter defense, winning Game 4 in a blowout. The next 2 games were closer, but LeBron James simply didn't have enough talent around him, running out of steam while being guarded by Iggy, Clay, Harrison Barnes, and Draymond. The Warriors won the championship in 6 games, with Iguodala named the Finals MVP due to his stellar defense on LeBron. He became the first player to win the award without starting every game of the series. And even though he played on a losing team, LeBron still got 4 out of 11 votes for the Finals MVP, averaging 36, 13, and 9 for the series. Steph Curry, who should have gotten more votes, and maybe even won the Finals MVP since he averaged 26 points per game compared to 16 for Iguodala, set a new NBA record for the most 3-point field goals made in a single playoffs, with 98, which trashed the previous record by 39 3-pointers. The 2015 season was arguably the biggest turning point in NBA history, because the previous belief was that
jumpers are like pretty girls. They're really good looking when they're going in, but then when you realize that pretty girl is dumb, you're in for a long date.
And that you can't win a title shooting threes. But that was before the Splash Brothers, who changed basketball thinking forever and proved that you must shoot threes to win a championship. But just like with any innovation, it takes a while for everybody to catch on. Even though the number of three-pointers jumped from 22 to 24 attempts per game from 2015 to 2016, most teams still played with traditional bigs and without lineups that could all shoot. And the Warriors took advantage of their advantage, setting multiple NBA records in the process, in what was arguably the best NBA season ever. The teams were very busy in the offseason.
The Chicago Bulls firing head coach Tom Thibodeau on Thursday after 5 seasons on the bench.
Replaced by Fred Hoiberg, who would soon become disliked by all the Bulls players. OKC fired Scott Brooks after 7 years, replacing him with Billy Donovan, while the Nuggets hired Michael Malone, who would become the most successful coach in franchise history. Unfortunately, the Timberwolves had to change their head coach too, after Flip Saunders passed away, and in his place came their former player Sam Mitchell. The Spurs signed the best free agent that offseason, LaMarcus Aldridge. Goran Dragic signed with the Heat, while Jeremy Lin became a Hornet. And despite verbally agreeing to sign a 4-year, $80 million contract with the Dallas Mavericks on July 3rd, on the very next day, DeAndre Jordan was literally hijacked by the Clippers players, who convinced him to change his mind and re-sign with the Clippers. Minnesota selected Karl Anthony Towns with the first overall pick in the draft, thus becoming the first ever franchise with 3 of the most recent first picks on their roster, since they also had Andrew Wiggins and Anthony Bennett, who arrived in Minneapolis in a trade for Kevin Love. However, that would be short-lived, since Bennett was cut before the season even started, thus becoming the first #1 pick to get cut after only 2 years in the league. The Lakers selected D'Angelo Russell with the second pick, whose rookie season wouldn't be remembered by anything he did on the court, but by the scandal involving Nick Young, where D'Angelo leaked footage where Young talked about cheating on his fiancée, Iggy Azalea.
You was 30, she was 19? Hell no. I'm glad you told my video all that.
What kind of damage will this do to Russell's career?
Irreparable damage. He'll never be trusted ever again.
Kristaps Porzingis got drafted 4th by the Knicks, even though some fans clearly didn't think it was a good idea.
Who the f*** is this? Who the f*** is Tingus Pingus?
Other notable draft picks include Devin Booker, who got selected 13th overall by the Suns, Miles Turner, and Bobby Portis, in what was a relatively weak draft class overall. And even though he was drafted in 2014, the 2016 season was also the first NBA season for a future three-time MVP, Nikola Jokic. In the second game of the season, OKC and Orlando played one of the most thrilling games of the year, which went to 2 overtimes.
Oladipo, long shot, he drilled it, pure magic!
And featured crazy clutch shots.
Westbrook, baked it!
On November 1st, the San Antonio Spurs' trio achieved their 541st regular season win, surpassing the all-time mark attained by Larry Bird, Robert Parrish, and Kevin McHale. On the very next day, LeBron James surpassed Kobe Bryant to become the youngest player to score 25,000 career points.
25,001 for LeBron James.
At 30 years and 307 days in a victory against the 76ers. That same night, Tim Duncan achieved his 954th victory with the San Antonio Spurs in a 94-84 win against the New York Knicks. And mere weeks after the regular season began, we had the first scandal, when Blake Griffin punched the Clippers equipment manager Matthias Testi in the face. Griffin suffered a fracture in his right hand and was later suspended for 4 games by the team.
It's a situation that between two friends that kind of got out of hand, and I exercised poor judgment.
When Griffin returned to action, he was greeted by Kevin Garnett, who threw one of the nastiest dunks of his career in Blake's face at the age of 39. On November 18th, the Rockets fired coach Kevin McHale after he had a disagreement with a team superstar James Harden. The Warriors started the season 24-0, thus setting the second longest winning streak ever at 28 games, which included their 4-game win streak at the end of the previous year. On the other hand, the Philadelphia 76ers became the first team in league history to start out multiple seasons in a row with 0-17 records. They also broke the NBA record for the longest losing streak with 28 straight losses and tied the 2010 New Jersey Nets for the worst start to a season in league history.
I was tired of Philadelphia tanking games. Well, I'm not going to say tank, but yes, they tanked.
But even though some great names like Sean Marion, Andrei Kirilenko, Kenyon Martin, Steven Jackson, Jason Richardson, and Hedo Turkoglu announced their retirements before the season even began, one active player decided to announce his retirement in the middle of the season.
Just accept the fact that I don't want to do this anymore. And I'm okay with that.
Which overshadowed everything and became a league-wide appreciation tour. And even though Kobe was clearly struggling with his injuries, on January 7, 2016, Bryant scored his 33,000th career point in a loss to the Kings, joining Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Karl Malone as the only NBA players with over 33,000 points. Several weeks later, the Cavaliers fired their head coach David Blatt, despite having the best record in the East, replacing him with Tyronn Lue. And despite getting called Tingus Pingus, Kristaps Porzingis proved to be a great asset for the struggling Knicks, becoming the first player in NBA history to record more than 1,000 points, at least 500 rebounds, 75 three-pointers, and block more than 100 shots in his rookie season. Because of his versatility, he earned a nickname from Kevin Durant.
He's a 7-footer that can shoot all the way up to the three-point line. That's rare. And block shots, that's like it's a unicorn.
Which later became a mainstream term for many other players with similar skill sets. And after Matt Barnes beat up the New York Knicks head coach and former teammate Derek Fisher for dating his ex-wife, when asked about the incident, Barnes delivered one of the best quotes of the year, saying that
violence is never the answer, but sometimes it is.
Unrelated to the fight, Fisher got fired from the Knicks in the next couple of weeks, as the team was underperforming, wasting another year of Carmelo Anthony's prime. Miami's Chris Bosh was diagnosed with blood clots, and even though nobody knew it then, a game against the Spurs on February 9th would be the last time he ever played in the NBA. A few days later, the All-Star Weekend began, and it was one of the best All-Star events ever. Kevin Hart had a 3-point shooting contest with Draymond Green, and the comedian almost defeated an NBA champion, with the shootout ending in a tie. But in a real 3-point contest, Klay Thompson defeated his splash brother Steph Curry in one of the best 3-point shooting contests ever. However, the most memorable moments happened during the slam dunk contest. Dunk after dunk, Zach LaVine and Aaron Gordon amazed the crowd with insane aerial feats, scoring 50s multiple times in a row. In the end, LaVine became the first back-to-back slam dunk contest winner since Nate Robinson, edging out Gordon with 4 consecutive perfect scores in the final round. The All-Star Game itself was the celebration of Kobe Bryant's career, who appeared in his 18th and final All-Star Game. Kobe finished with 10 points, 6 rebounds, and 7 assists, while Russell Westbrook won the MVP with 31 points, 8 rebounds, rebounds, 5 assists, and 5 steals in 22 minutes, as the West defeated the East 196-173. That 369 total points in the game broke the previous year's record by 48, and both teams exceeded their prior team records of 163. Boston's Isaiah Thomas, who was the 60th pick in the 2011 draft, became the lowest draft pick to be named an All-Star since the NBA draft was reduced to 2 rounds in 1989. Thomas also became only the 9th player under 6 feet to be named an All-Star, while also tying Calvin Murphy as the shortest player to be selected for the All-Star game. The All-Star weekend also became memorable for the recognition of Craig Sager, legendary TNT sideline reporter who returned to his job despite a long battle with cancer.
He's just trying to dunk on me, Craig. Oh, no. He's just trying to dunk on me.
And soon after the regular season resumed, we saw the best game of the season between the Golden State Warriors and the OKC Thunder in an emotion-filled game that felt like Game 7 of the playoffs. After 48 minutes, the score was tied. And what happened next was legendary.
Curry, way downtown. Bang!
And to this day remains arguably the most memorable three-pointer of Curry's career. During the game, Curry made his 287th three-pointer of the season, breaking his own NBA record of most three-pointers in a single season from the previous year. Steph made 12 total three-pointers during the game, tying Kobe Bryant and Donyell Marshall for the most three-pointers made in a single game in NBA history. On March 3rd, DeMar DeRozan set an NBA record for the most consecutive free throws made, 24, during the Toronto Raptors win against the Portland Trail Blazers. On March 25th, the Golden State Warriors and Dallas Mavericks scored a combined 39 three-pointers, breaking the previous NBA record of most combined threes between both teams in a single game that had been set by the Golden State Warriors and the Portland Trail Blazers only 14 days earlier. It was a great precursor to what the league would become in the following decade, as the pace and space era truly took over. In 2016, the league average for three-point attempts was 24.1 per game, a new NBA record, while in 2025, teams averaged 37.6 attempts from deep, with no team averaging fewer than 32 threes per game. But toward the end of the regular season, several more NBA records were broken. On April 5th, with the Spurs' victory over the Jazz, Tim Duncan joined Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Robert Parrish as one of only 3 players in NBA history to amass at least 1,000 career regular season wins. And 2 days later, the matchup between Duncan's Spurs and the Golden State Warriors marked the first game in NBA history between 2 teams with at least 65 wins each. The Warriors entered the game with 69 wins, while the Spurs had 65, and the 134 combined wins set an NBA regular season record for the most combined wins between 2 teams. The Spurs finished the year with 67 wins, including a 40-1 home record, tying the NBA record previously held by the 1986 Boston Celtics. However, despite the Spurs' historic year, the main story was whether the Warriors would break the record for the most wins in a season, set in 1996 by the Chicago Bulls, who went 72-10. Even though chasing the record tired them out and was somewhat unnecessary since the Warriors clinched the #1 seed a few weeks before the playoffs started, they decided to go for it. And on April 13th, with a victory over the Grizzlies, Golden State won their 73rd game of the season, breaking the Bulls' record.
It's official, number 73.
In that final game, Steph Curry made 10 three-pointers, which put his total for the season at 402 made threes. Steph absolutely trashed his previous NBA record of 286 three-pointers in a season, becoming the first player to score 300 and then 400 threes in a season. However, despite Steph and the Warriors' historic feat, one player stole the spotlight from them.
Can you promise me one thing?
What's up?
I need 50 that night. Can you do it?
In true Mamba fashion, Kobe erupted for 60 points in his final NBA game, providing a perfect ending for his storied career.
60.
Bryant became the oldest player ever to score 60 points in a game and set the record for most points scored by a player in their final career game. Kobe shot a career-high 50 field goal attempts and 21 three-point attempts in the game, after which he dropped the mic.
Mamba out.
On the negative side of NBA history, James Harden broke the all-time record for most turnovers in a season with 374, a record that he would increase the following season, turning over the ball 464 times. The Philadelphia 76ers became the 6th team to lose 70 games in a season, and the first team in NBA history to lose at least 70 regular season games in 2 separate seasons. The 76ers would finish 10-72, one win ahead of their own worst 82-game record set in the 1973 season. And despite the Sixers embracing the trust the process mantra of their general manager Sam Hinkie, the GM wouldn't be there to reap the benefits.
I'm incredibly happy. He stepped down hastily. he should have been fired.
Even though the Sixers would end up with the #1 pick in the draft a month later in the draft lottery. Apart from leading the league in three-pointers, Curry also led the NBA in scoring with 30.1 points per game, in steals with 2.1, and in free throw percentage with 91% accuracy. Steph joined the prestigious 50-40-90 club, becoming just the 7th player to achieve it and the only one to score over 30 points per game with that efficiency. Because of those historic feats, Steph became the first unanimous MVP in NBA history. Unsurprisingly, Steve Kerr also won Coach of the Year, despite missing more than half of the season due to back surgery. Kawhi Leonard won the Defensive Player of the Year award after being recognized as the best perimeter defender in the league since 2013. Karl Anthony Towns became just the 5th player ever to win Rookie of the Year unanimously after averaging 18.3 points, 10.5 rebounds, and 1.7 blocks per game, with elite shooting percentages. Porzingis finished 2nd, while Jokic came in 3rd, already displaying some of his passing wizardry as a rookie. Jamal Crawford won the 6th Man of the Year award for the 3rd time, while CJ McCollum became the most improved player. The 2016 season was also the coming-out party for Giannis Antetokounmpo, who led the league in total dunks and announced his future rim-shattering dominance. The biggest positive surprise was the Boston Celtics, who secured the 5th seed in the East just 2 years after they went into a rebuild by trading Pierce and KG to the Nets. On the other hand, the Knicks were a disaster, while the Bulls missed the playoffs because coach Fred Hoiberg could never get on the same page with Jimmy Butler and their other 2 stars, Pau Gasol and Derrick Rose. In the West, the Rockets underachieved due to James Harden's beef with Dwight Howard. The Pelicans were an abomination despite the greatness of Anthony Davis. But the worst of all was the Lakers, who won just 17 games, playing the worst season in franchise history. However, the team that really exceeded expectations was the Portland Trail Blazers, who lost 4 starters from the previous season. But thanks mainly to Damian Lillard, who became a true superstar, averaging 25 points per game, including 2 50-point games, the Blazers kept on winning, finishing the season as the 5th seed. When the playoffs started, Lillard, McCollum, and the Blazers knocked off the favored LA Clippers, largely due to injuries to Chris Paul and Blake Griffin, which marked the beginning of the end for the Lob City Clippers.
And the Portland Trail Blazers on to the 2nd round.
This was the only surprise in the West, as the Warriors, Spurs, and Thunder lost a combined 2 games in their first-round matchups. However, the amount of wear and tear from the regular season caught up with Curry, who got hurt in Game 2 of the series against the Rockets and would miss the first 3 games of the second-round matchup against the Blazers. In the first round of the Eastern Conference, there weren't any surprises either, as all 4 higher seeds defeated the lower ones. The Cavaliers easily swept the Pistons, the Raptors won their first Game 7 in franchise history against the Pacers, and the Hawks defeated Isaiah Thomas and the Celtics, while Miami got past the Hornets, in a series that will be remembered by Dwayne Wade's clash with a fan in a purple shirt. The most interesting series in the second round was the clash between the Spurs and the Thunder, where Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant edged out San Antonio's 2 superstars, LaMarcus Aldridge and Kawhi Leonard. The 6th and final game of the series, which the Thunder won 113-99, was the last career game of the great Tim Duncan. Timmy didn't disappoint, scoring 19 points and 5 rebounds in his farewell game. With Duncan out of the playoffs, he joined Kobe, Kevin Garnett, and Chris Bosh, who all retired that season and would all be part of the legendary 2020 Hall of Fame class. In the second matchup in the West, the Blazers had a golden opportunity to advance since the Warriors played without Curry. But the Warriors took a 2-1 series lead without their best player, and when Steph returned to play after missing 2 weeks due to an MCL sprain, he scored 40 points to lead the Warriors to a 132-125 overtime win. Curry scored 17 of his 40 points during the overtime period, setting an NBA record for most points ever scored by a single player in overtime of any NBA regular season or postseason game. In the East, the Cavs had no problem with the Hawks, sweeping another series and breaking the NBA record for three-pointers made in Game 2, with 25 makes from deep. On the other hand, Toronto and Miami played an extremely competitive series that went to Game 7, but in the deciding game, Kyle Lowry played one of the best games of his career, finishing with 35 points, 7 rebounds, 9 assists, and 4 steals to lead the Raptors to the conference finals. And even though the world expected the Raptors to fold against the Cavaliers, especially after the first 2 games ended in a blowout, the Canadian team showed their teeth, tying the series with 2 wins at home. Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan played at an extremely high level, both scoring over 30 in Game 4. But the unsung hero was the Raptors' backup center, Bismack Biyombo, who grabbed a career-high 26 rebounds in Game 3 and 14 in Game 4, perfectly replacing Jonas Valanciunas, who got hurt in the second round. But in Game 5, the Raptors couldn't buy a bucket, scoring just 78 points in another blowout.
LeBron James 1 win away from going to his 6th consecutive NBA final.
And in Game 6, despite 35 points from Lowry and 20 from DeRozan, Toronto couldn't deal with the Cavs' big three, who scored 83 points combined, pushing the Cavs to their 3rd NBA Finals. However, the Western Conference Finals proved to be much more even, more dramatic, and more controversial. OKC took a 3-1 series lead with Steven Adams withstanding not 1, but 2 kicks to the groin by Draymond. Green tried to justify his actions by saying that his leg was just flailing naturally and that it was a pure basketball motion, but nobody was buying it. And the NBA issued a $25,000 fine, along with a flagrant foul too, which put him in jeopardy of getting suspended if he got another flagrant during the postseason. The greatest season of all time was turning into a disaster for the Warriors, who were on the brink of elimination for the first time in 2 years. But in Game 5, the Dubs finally snapped out of their funk, winning 120-111, extending the series. However, in Game 6, OKC had a golden opportunity to clinch the NBA Finals at home, and it looked like they were going to do it, leading by 8 points after the first 3 quarters. In the fourth, seemingly every time the Thunder scored, Klay Thompson hit a 3 to keep the Warriors in the game. Klay made 5 threes in the final period and 11 overall, which was a new NBA playoff record. And even though the Thunder still had a chance to win the game, a couple of late turnovers by Westbrook cost them, and the Warriors escaped with a victory behind a monster 41 points from Thompson. In Game 7, the Thunder held a lead at the half, but a disastrous third quarter, which Golden State won 29-12, put the game away, and the Warriors ultimately won 96-88, with Steph erupting for 36 points to lead the Dubs to another NBA Finals. Golden State became just the 10th team in NBA history to come back and win a playoff series after facing a 3-1 deficit.
Got the finals we all wanted.
That is a fact.
In a repeat of the 2015 Finals, Game 1 was competitive through the first 3 quarters, but then an unexpected hero showed up for the Warriors and put the game away. It was Shaun Livingston, the Warriors' backup point guard, leading all Dubs players in scoring with a playoff career-high 20 points, including 10 in the fourth quarter. Golden State won by 15, once again showcasing their catchphrase, strength in numbers, as 7 of their players scored in double digits. In Game 2, the Cavs hung on in the first quarter and then got completely wiped out. In the next 3 quarters, the Warriors demolished Cleveland, winning 110-77. It was the 7th biggest margin of victory in NBA Finals history. But when the series got to Cleveland for Game 3, it was the Cavaliers who punched the Warriors in the mouth early, with Kyrie Irving scoring as much as the entire Golden State team in the first quarter. Cleveland blew out the Warriors by 30 points, despite missing Kevin Love, who was out of the game due to a concussion he suffered in Game 2. Game 4 was the closest game of the series up to that point, as Golden State held just a 1-point lead going into the fourth quarter. But then Curry took over, en route to 38 points, while the Warriors made 17 three-pointers, then an NBA record for a single finals game, and the first time in the finals that a team made more threes than twos. However, that was all soon forgotten because of Draymond Green and his habit of hitting players in the nuts. With less than 3 minutes left to play in the game, when the Warriors up by 10, Green committed the costliest mistake of his career. The contact with LeBron's gentleman's area earned Draymond his 4th flagrant foul in the postseason.
I don't like the decision at all. I think that it potentially robs the Golden State Warriors of a championship victory in Game 5,
which was an automatic 1-game suspension. But even though they would play without their best defensive player, Golden State still had a 3-1 lead, winning all the games by double digits. It felt that the rest of the series was just a formality, because 32 teams had fallen to a 3-1 deficit and all 32 lost. After Game 4, when asked about the incident between Draymond and LeBron, Klay Thompson made the costliest quote of his career.
Guys talk trash in this league all the time. You know, I'm just kind of shocked some guys take it so personal. Know how the man feels, but obviously people have feelings and people's feelings get hurt even if they're called a bad word. I guess his feelings just got hurt.
And when he heard that, LeBron took the high road.
It's so hard to take the high road. I've been doing it for 13 years. It's so hard to continue to do it, and I'm going to do it again.
But deep inside, he was livid. Even though the rest of the world believed the Cavs were toast, LeBron knew that they were going to make a comeback. And when Game 5 started, James went on an absolute tear. Both he and Irving finished with 41 points, becoming the first pair of teammates to score 40 in a finals game. The Cavaliers won Game 5, 112-97, and the Cavs coach, Ty Lue, was extremely confident they'd be coming back to Oakland for Game 7.
And I had everybody in the locker room give me $200. And they said, "What you doing with this money?" So I wrapped it up and I put it in the ceiling and said, "We're coming back for Game 7 and get our money."
And when the series returned to Cleveland for Game 6, LeBron had another performance for the ages. The King had complete control of both ends of the floor and finished the game with 41 points again, including 18 straight points from the end of the third quarter to the 7-minute mark of the fourth. LeBron also had 11 rebounds, 4 assists, 4 steals, and 3 blocks, while only committing 1 turnover in one of his best all-around games ever. Game 6 of the finals was also memorable because ESPN invited TNT's Craig Sager to do sideline interviews, which was the first time he ever worked in the NBA Finals, and sadly, the last game he ever appeared on before his death later that year. But after such a legendary season, in the end, it all came down to Game 7, only the 4th time it happened in the NBA Finals since 1994. But of all those Game 7s, this one was arguably the most legendary, and one of the biggest nail-biters ever. The two teams exchanged the lead 20 times, with 11 ties, and with 4 minutes and 40 seconds left, the score was tied at 89. For the next 3 minutes, neither team could buy a bucket, as everyone was completely exhausted. But then, it looked like the Warriors would break the tie, as Andre Iguodala led on the 2-on-1 fast break. What followed next was the greatest chase-down block in the history of basketball.
Blocked by James!
With 1:09 to play and the score still tied, the Cavs called a timeout. As Ty Lue gathered the team, James emphatically pointed to Irving, with the full belief of his running mates scoring in isolation. The Cavs then ran a screen, with J.R. Smith forcing Curry to guard Kyrie.
Irving and Curry, one-on-one. Irving puts it up. It's good! Kyrie Irving!
Despite having a 3-point advantage with 53 seconds to go, it was still a one-possession game. The Warriors used the same tactic as the Cavs did moments earlier, hunting Kevin Love in the pick and roll, forcing him to guard Steph on the perimeter. Love was the Warriors' preferred target, and throughout the 30 minutes he played in Game 7, the Warriors scored 28 points with Love as the primary defender, and the Dubs scored more than 30% of their points over him. However, with the clock winding down, Love moved his feet like he never moved them before, contesting Curry's shot as well as he could, forcing a missed three-pointer from Steph. With their final possession, the Cavs needed a bucket to put the game away, and James ended up on the foul line.
Misses the jam, but fouled!
LeBron missed the first, but made the second, with 10 seconds left on the clock. After a timeout, Steph had another 3-point attempt to cut the lead to 1, but his shot missed the target, and the Cavs could finally celebrate. After 52 long and painful years, the city of Cleveland finally won a championship, which was echoed by one of the most legendary shoutouts ever.
Cleveland! This is for you!
In Game 7, James led all Cavaliers with 27 points and became only the third player in NBA history to record a triple-double in an NBA Finals Game 7 by adding 11 assists and 11 rebounds. With 29.7 points, 11.3 rebounds, 8.9 assists, 2.6 steals, and 2.3 blocks per game, LeBron also became the first player ever to lead both teams in all 5 major statistical categories in any playoff series, and he deservingly won the Finals MVP. The Cavaliers became the first team in NBA history to come back from a 3-1 series deficit to win the NBA Finals, as well as the first road team to win a Finals Game 7 since the 1978 Washington Bullets. Game 7 of the 2016 Finals was also the most watched game in NBA Finals history. And with plenty of lead changes and some of the most legendary plays ever, it's safe to say it was the best Finals game of all time. That 2016 season was truly a crossroads season, with the league fully embracing the three-pointer and saying farewell to some of the last remaining players from the 90s, while welcoming some future superstars like Giannis and Jokic. And before the next season started, 10 teams changed head coaches, most notably the Rockets, who hired Mike D'Antoni, the Lakers, who hired Luke Walton, while Tom Thibodeau took over the Timberwolves coaching job. Philadelphia drafted Ben Simmons first overall, Brandon Ingram went second to the Lakers, while the Celtics drafted Jaylen Brown third overall. Domantas Sabonis, Jamal Murray, Ivica Zubac, and DeJounte Murray were also selected, but all that news faded away.
Where should Durant play next season?
Oklahoma City, without a doubt. And LeBron gave him the perfect reason why.
And the biggest free agent on the market decided to switch teams, choosing his next chapter. The Warriors have been trying to lure KD to join him for months, most notably Draymond Green.
And I told him, we wanted him here. And he said, let's do this.
And when Durant finally accepted to join the 73-9 team, arguably the greatest team of all time was created. And for the Bulls fans, the 2016 offseason was pretty hard, as Derrick Rose got traded to the Knicks for Robin Lopez and Jose Calderon. After the 8 years the former #1 pick spent in the Windy City, the Magic traded the former second overall pick Victor Oladipo, plus the rights to Domantas Sabonis to OKC for Serge Ibaka, and during the trade deadline, Kyle Korver joined the Cavs, while DeMarcus Cousins came to New Orleans, finding out about the trade during an interview at the All-Star Weekend.
Oh, really?
You can.
That's what I...
But apart from KD joining the Warriors, arguably the biggest shock in the player market was Dwayne Wade parting ways with the Heat after failing to reach a contract extension.
It sucks because you know somebody so well, you guys love each other, but the business side come out.
He was joined by Rajon Rondo, giving the Bulls a new Big Three alongside Jimmy Butler, while Pau Gasol left Chicago and joined the Spurs. The 2016 offseason was also historic in terms that almost every team in the league had cap space due to a new TV deal, which gave birth to some ridiculous contract extensions, like the Lakers, who gave the aging Luol Deng $72 million to play 13 minutes for them, but also Timofey Mozgov, whom the Lakers overpaid by giving him $64 million over 4 years, and he only appeared in 52 games for LA. Chandler Parsons also got $95 million for the Grizzlies, despite being plagued by injuries. Bismack Biyombo got $72 million from Orlando, just like Joakim Noah, who signed with the Knicks, while many other teams also wasted cap space in the summer where many GMs acted like drunk millionaires. When the season finally started, the Warriors got smacked in the face by the Spurs, who defeated them by 29 points. But talent trumps everything, and there was little anybody could do when Steve Kerr put out the infamous Hamptons 5 lineup. With 3 of the greatest shooters in the game, plus Iggy and Draymond, the Dubs quickly regained composure. And in the 7th game of the season, Steph Curry made 13 three-pointers against the Pelicans, setting a new NBA record for most three-pointers made in a single game.
The NBA record for the record,
breaking the previous record of 12 shared by Curry himself, Kobe Bryant, and Donyell Marshall. By Christmas, the Warriors lost just 4 games. And in a finals rematch with the Cavs, we saw one of the best ever Christmas Day games, with Cleveland coming out on top thanks to this Kyrie Irving game winner. And without KD, Russell Westbrook was unleashed, playing like a madman. On October 28th, Russell Westbrook registered the first 50-point triple-double since Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in 1975 in a win against the Suns, recording 51 points, 13 rebounds, and 10 assists. Russell's triple-doubles became one of the biggest stories of the season, and he set numerous milestones in that category, like posting a triple-double without a miss and averaging a triple-double in a calendar month. During the final week of the regular season, Westbrook recorded 50 points, 16 rebounds, and 10 assists against the Nuggets, including this insane 3 for the win.
What a perfect ending to a historic day!
This was Westbrook's 42nd triple-double of the season, breaking the NBA record for most triple-doubles in a single season that was previously held by Oscar Robertson. And despite a mediocre defense, the Cavaliers were firing on all cylinders offensively. Kevin Love's 34 points in the first quarter in a win against Portland, setting an NBA record for most points scored in the first quarter, and second most in any quarter. During a game against the Wizards, Love assisted LeBron on this legendary buzzer beater.
LeBron, and got it!
And with the fast-paced offense by Mike D'Antoni, influenced by Daryl Morey's analytics and orchestrated by James Harden, the Rockets fully embraced the three-pointer as the main offensive weapon, attempting 40 threes per game, which was almost 50% of their total shot attempts. On December 16th, the Rockets made 24 three-pointers on 61 attempts in a win against the Pelicans, setting the NBA records for most made and attempted three-pointers. The record of 24 made threes would get tied by the Nuggets later in the season and broken by the Cavaliers, who made 25 threes in a March game against Atlanta. But Houston also broke the NBA record in threes made and attempted for the season. Harden was the engine behind their success, scoring 30 or more in 39 games of the season, including 2 50-point games, in which he also recorded a triple-double. Harden's 53 points, 16 rebounds, and 17 assists against the Knicks was the first 50-15-15 game in NBA history. And Harden tied Wilt Chamberlain for the most points ever scored in a triple-double, a record that would soon get broken by Russell Westbrook, who scored a triple-double with 57 points. The Beard led the NBA in assists and free throws made, and unofficially in step-back three-pointers, a move that looked illegal but wasn't, due to the new gather-step rule. Because of his patented shot, Harden was often unguardable, and people actually guarded him from behind. If Russell Westbrook didn't average a triple-double for the season, the Beard would have been the MVP. But in the end, he had to settle for a second place for the second year in a row. But the most insane statistical game of the season wasn't achieved by either Westbrook or Harden. but by Klay Thompson, who scored 60 points in 29 minutes in a 142-106 win over the Indiana Pacers, doing so on just 11 dribbles. Thompson became the first person in the shot clock era to score 60 points in less than 30 minutes, and the first to score at least 60 points in 3 quarters since Kobe Bryant scored 62 against the Mavs in 2005. A few days after Klay's hot shooting night, Chris Paul recorded 20 points and 20 assists without turnovers in a win against the Pelicans, the first person in NBA history to achieve those stats since turnovers first started being recorded in 1977. On February 10th, Draymond Green became the first player in NBA history to record a triple-double while failing to score in double figures, with 12 rebounds, 10 assists, and 10 steals. On the following night, the Warriors played against the Thunder, which marked the first return of KD back to Oklahoma. Wearing cupcake costumes and booing Durant every time he touched the ball, it resembled the atmosphere of LeBron's return to Cleveland after the decision, and Russell Westbrook had something to say about it as well. But in the end, KD had the last laugh, scoring 34 points in a big 130-114 win against his former team. During the All-Star weekend, Russ and KD ignored each other with plenty of awkward moments, which were momentarily suppressed when the duo connected on a lob dunk. The All-Star game was the highest-scoring game ever, as the West defeated the East 192-182. Anthony Davis was named the MVP after scoring 52 points, which was an NBA record until Jason Tatum scored 55 points in 2023. Eric Gordon was the new three-point shooting champion, while Glenn Robinson won the dunk contest, in a performance that wasn't anywhere close to the show of Aaron Gordon and Zach LaVine from the previous year. But when the regular season resumed, we saw numerous records and milestones. On March 1st, the Detroit Pistons shot 3 of 17 on free throws in a loss against the New Orleans Pelicans, setting a record for the lowest free throw percentage in a game in NBA history. On March 7th, Dirk Nowitzki scored his 30,000th career point in a win against the Lakers, becoming just the 6th player in NBA history to reach that milestone. On March 24th, Devin Booker became the 6th player in NBA history to score at least 70 points in a game, setting the record for the highest scoring game of the season. Giannis led the Bucks in every one of the 5 major statistical categories, becoming only the 5th NBA player to do so, after Dave Cowens, Scottie Pippen, Kevin Garnett, and LeBron James. This earned him the Most Improved Player award, and the Greek Freak also became the first player in NBA history to finish in the top 20 in the league in each of the 5 major categories in a regular season, with plenty of highlights to show for, including the dunk with only one half-court dribble and the buzzer beater at Madison Square Garden. Unfortunately, before the end of the regular season, the NBA and the world lost Craig Sager, after which the equally legendary Ernie Johnson gave one of the best eulogies at his funeral. The Inside Crew garnered the center of attention for other reasons, as JaVale McGee had a public feud with Shaq, who constantly featured him on Shaqtin' a Fool. Charles Barkley had a beef with LeBron James, who finally grew tired of Chuck's criticism.
I won't watch no damn TNT.
The other big feud involved Charles Oakley and the Knicks owner James Dolan, who had Oakley arrested and taken out of the game at MSG. The Lakers had a dramatic turn of events when the owner, Jeannie Buss, hired Magic Johnson as the new general manager and fired her brother, Jim Buss. Jim then tried to replace her as the controlling owner of the Lakers, until Jeannie sued him in a very weird family affair. And despite OKC finishing the year as the 6th seed, Russell Westbrook won the MVP after averaging a league-leading 31.6 points, 10.7 rebounds, and 10.4 assists, becoming only the 2nd player since Oscar Robertson to average a triple-double for the season. Malcolm Brogdon was the Rookie of the Year, ahead of Dario Saric and Joel Embiid, who finally made his NBA debut after 2 missed seasons, only to get injured again and play in just 31 games. Draymond Green was voted as the Defensive Player of the Year ahead of Rudy Gobert and Kawhi, while Eric Gordon won the 6th Man of the Year, slightly ahead of Andre Iguodala. When the playoffs started, the Cavaliers erased a 25-point halftime deficit in their 119-114 victory over the Pacers, which at the time was the largest such deficit overcome in NBA playoff history. Eventually, the Cavs swept the series, and LeBron achieved his 10th playoff series sweep. It was also James's 21st consecutive victory in the first round. Another another NBA record. The Raptors, led by best friends Lowry and DeRozan, and cheered on by Drake, defeated the Bucks led by Giannis and Chris Middleton in 6 games. The Bucks suffered a big loss after Jabari Parker went down with another ACL injury during the season, as he was averaging 20 points per game. The Wizards defeated the Hawks in 6 games, with John Wall and Bradley Beal combining for 55 points per game, and the Celtics also needed 6 games to get past the Bulls, who took a 2-0 series lead but then lost Rajon Rondo to injury, after which their season was essentially over. In the West, the Warriors swept Damian Lillard and the Blazers, despite Durant missing 2 games of the series. Harden and the Rockets had no trouble beating OKC's one-man show in 5 games, despite Westbrook averaging 37, 11, and 11 for the series. Kawhi Leonard led the Spurs past the Grizzlies in 6 in a series that will forever be remembered by Memphis's coach David Fizdale and his
"Take that for data."
And somewhat surprisingly, Utah defeated the Clippers in 7 games after an injury to Blake Griffin in Game 3, which also marked the end of the Lob City era. In the conference semis, the Cavs and the Warriors swept the series, with LeBronto in full effect against the Raptors. San Antonio edged out the Rockets in 6 games, but the most interesting series was the one between the Celtics and the Wizards, where one little guy stole the hearts of fans worldwide. During the regular season, the 5'9" Isaiah Thomas was an All-Star, made the All-NBA second team, and finished top 5 in MVP voting after averaging 29 points and 6 assists per game. His 33-point average in January was just the 3rd time a Celtic averaged over 30 points in a month. He was also just the 6th Boston player with over 2,000 points in a season, and he broke the franchise record with 43 straight games over 20 points, as well as the record for points in the 4th quarter. He became the shortest ever player to make an All-NBA team, but one day before playoffs began, Isaiah received horrible news, as his younger sister China was in a horrible car accident and passed away.
Tragic news affecting Boston Celtics star Isaiah Thomas. His sister was killed in a 1-car accident early Saturday morning.
And even though he was devastated, he somehow managed to play, helping the Celtics get past the Heat. And just before the start of the second round against the Wizards, IT attended his sister's funeral, and on the very same day, he flew back to Boston to play in Game 1, where Thomas lost a front tooth following an inadvertent elbow from Otto Porter, requiring surgery. But Isaiah played through all that and finished the game with 33 points and 9 assists, leading the Celtics to victory. And what happened in the next game was something even more extraordinary, and it was easily one of the best performances in NBA history. Thomas scored 53 points, the second highest total in Celtics playoff history, helping Boston to win 129-119 in overtime and take a 2-0 series lead. He became only the 5th Celtic to score 50 or more points in a postseason game, missing John Havlicek's team record by 1 point. But the Wizards wouldn't go away, and they pushed the series to Game 7, where Isaiah once again came to the rescue. He led the Celtics with 29 points and 12 assists in a 115-105 win and a 4-3 series victory, finishing the series with 27 points and 7 assists on average. While his personal life was falling apart, he was at the top of the basketball world. But then, the basketball would also fall off a cliff. IT managed to play just 2 games in the Eastern Conference Finals against Cleveland, where he only scored 19 total points on horrendous 22% shooting, before he was shut down for the series and the rest of the season. It was all because of his ailing hip.
It's a hip injury and a tough blow for the C's, already down 2-0 in the Eastern Conference Finals.
An injury he nursed and played throughout the playoffs and the final few months of the regular season, and which would derail his career forever. And without Isaiah, the Celtics stood no chance against LeBron and the Cavs, who made the finals after losing just 1 game in the first 3 playoff series. But in the West, the Warriors were even better. Even though they were losing against the Spurs in Game 1, who held a 21-point lead in the 3rd quarter due to the brilliance of Kawhi Leonard, when one dirty play changed the course of the series and the Spurs franchise. Zaza Pachulia planted his foot in Leonard's landing area, who injured his ankle and was out of the series. The Spurs got swept without their superstar, and though they didn't know it yet, it would be the last playoff game Kawhi ever played for San Antonio. However, the focus quickly shifted on the 3rd consecutive finals between Cleveland and Golden State, who looked unstoppable with Kevin Durant. Not only did Durant bring in an offensive dimension the Warriors didn't have before, but he also brought a defensive presence, and his mobility as a near 7-footer made it difficult for James to drive to the basket at will. In the first 2 games, the Warriors obliterated the Cavs. Turnovers created unsolvable problems for Cleveland, as they gave up numerous easy points to the Warriors' insane pace. But even when all 5 Cavs managed to get on defense on time, they were murdered with the Durant-Curry pick and roll.
Durant again, the long strides and the easy finish.
However, when the series returned to Cleveland for Game 3, the Cavs looked much better, and their offense kept them in the lead for much of the game. It seemed like LeBron and company would win the game and keep the series alive. But then, in the final minute, KD launched one of the most cold-blooded shots in NBA Finals history. Cleveland still had a chance to win it, but suddenly they couldn't buy a bucket and didn't score a single point in the final 3 minutes. The Warriors won the game, snatching a 3-0 series lead. Then the Cavs somehow managed to win Game 4 in what was arguably the best offensive game ever in the finals, hitting 24 threes, an NBA playoff record. But it was clear to everybody that they couldn't sustain that kind of shooting and win the ring against these Warriors. And in Game 5, Golden State finished the job, ending the playoffs with 16 wins and only 1 loss, which was the best postseason run in NBA history, with KD finally winning that first title that had eluded him for so long. He averaged an unreal 35.2 points, 8.6 rebounds, 5.2 assists, 1 steal, and 1.6 blocks per game, while shooting 56% from the field, 47% from 3, and 93% on free throws. It was one of the best finals performances of all time, and of course, KD won the finals MVP, while many consider the 2017 Warriors to be the best team of all time, due to their shooting ability and the record-breaking playoff record of 16 wins and just 1 loss. However, when the next season started, one team was determined to dethrone the Warriors. It was the Houston Rockets, who made a series of complex transactions, trading 7 players and a future first-round pick for Chris Paul.
The winner is always a team that gets the best player, and Chris Paul is by so far the best player that the Rockets have just improved.
And in the East, 2 other All-Star point guards changed addresses. After 3 finals runs, Kyrie Irving was tired of living in LeBron's shadow, deciding to request a trade.
Irving says he wants to play where he can be the focal point and no longer wants to play alongside LeBron James.
And just a few weeks later, the Cavs obliged, even though they could have stayed pat, since Kyrie still had 2 years on his deal. But Danny Ainge was born for deals like this. And after he fleeced the Nets in the 2014 trade for KG and Pierce, the Celtics GM did the same to Cleveland, trading for Kyrie in exchange for a broken Isaiah Thomas, Jay Crowder, and a rookie, Ante Zizic, who was later on the receiving end of one of the best passes in NBA history. The Cavs also added Dwayne Wade and Derrick Rose, with an aging lineup that would have probably won 75 games in 2011. And after fighting with Fred Hoiberg for an entire year, the Bulls finally relented and traded Jimmy Butler, who went to Minnesota in exchange for Chris Dunn, Zach LaVine, and Lauri Markkanen. But that was not all in the summer of All-Star trades, as Paul George also requested a trade, moving from Indiana to OKC for Victor Oladipo and Domantas Sabonis. The Thunder also added Carmelo Anthony in a separate deal with the Knicks, sending Enes Kanter and Doug McDermott to New York. Paul Pierce signed a ceremonial contract to retire with the Celtics, where he started his career 19 years prior, while Matt Barnes retired after winning a ring with the Warriors. But other than a wild trade season, the summer of 2017 will also be remembered as the coming-out party of LeVar Ball, who permeated the media landscape unlike any father in NBA history. His son Lonzo became the second pick of the 2017 draft, selected by the Lakers, with LeVar making extravagant claims throughout his draft process.
Lonzo Ball is going to take the Lakers to the playoffs his first year,
while also launching the infamous Big Baller brand and their $500 low-quality shoes. Markelle Fultz was the first overall pick, as the Sixers made a draft night trade with Boston to move up in the draft, while the Celtics selected Jason Tatum with the 3rd pick. De'Aaron Fox, Lauri Markkanen, Donovan Mitchell, Bam Adebayo, Kyle Kuzma, Jarrett Allen, Dylan Brooks, and Derek White were also selected. Before the season started, the NBA implemented the Zaza Pachulia rule, with referees able to call dangerous closeouts of defenders to jump shooters, setting their feet in the landing area. Additionally, they could also assess an offensive foul if an offensive player intentionally lunges into the defender or locks arms to create contact, a rule informally dubbed as the Harden Rule. On September 28, 2017, the NBA Board of Governors approved changes to the draft lottery system to discourage teams from losing on purpose. Starting with the 2018-19 NBA season, the teams with the 3 worst records had equal odds at the number 1 pick. The All-Star format was also changed, with the lead vote-getters able to choose their teammates. The season started on October 17, 2017, with Kyrie Irving playing against his former team in the very first game of the season. But that game itself won't be remembered by anything other than the gruesome injury to Gordon Hayward, who was the biggest free agent signing of the season. After only 5 minutes, Hayward landed awkwardly on his ankle, suffering a dislocated ankle and a fractured tibia. On October 28th, Russell Westbrook became the first player in NBA history to record a triple-double against all 29 opposing teams, while 2 weeks later, Lonzo Ball became the youngest player in NBA history to record a triple-double, at 20 years and 15 days old, breaking LeBron's record by 5 days. And speaking of LeBron, in a game against the Heat, James was ejected for the first time in his career after 1,081 games without disqualification. But he also had some things to be happy about, because on January 23, 2018, he scored his 30,000th point at the age of 33 years old and 24 days, surpassing Kobe Bryant as the youngest player to do so, as well as being just the 7th player to join the 30,000-point club. Later in the season, LeBron James broke Michael Jordan's record for consecutive games with at least 10 points. James scored in double digits for 867 consecutive games and finished the game with 27. In that same game, he also tied Kobe Bryant's record for third most 20-point games in NBA history with 941. But despite LeBron's greatness, the Cavs were a mess. J.R. Smith threw a bowl of soup at an assistant coach, Dwayne Wade was unhappy, Derrick Rose pondered retirement, and Isaiah Thomas was a shadow of his former self due to a hip injury.
He's really struggling, and it's getting on his teammates' nerves, especially him holding the ball.
After which, the Cavs traded half the roster in one of the biggest in-season overhauls of all time. And just a few months after they signed him to a big $171 million 5-year contract and promised him that he'll be a Clipper for life, the Clippers traded Blake Griffin to Detroit for Tobias Harris, Avery Bradley, Boban Marjanovic, and 2 picks. And due to their preseason fight, the Bulls had to separate Nikola Mirotic and Bobby Portis, trading Mirotic to the Pelicans. The Pelicans were on their way to their best season ever, with AD and Boogie forming the best big lineup in the league, along with Drew Holiday and Rajon Rondo as one of the best backcourts in the league. But then, Cousins tore his Achilles, which would derail his career and kill the Pelicans' chances of making a deep playoff run. But even at full strength, there was little anybody could do against the 2 best teams in the West. The Warriors were playing on cruise control and were so bored with the regular season that Steve Kerr let his players coach and call plays, while KD had extra time to tweet in an infamous case of his burner accounts getting revealed. On December 4th, 2017, Steph Curry hit his 2,000th career three-pointer. He became the fastest to reach the milestone at 597 games. That's 225 games fewer than Ray Allen. But the story of the season was the Rockets, with Harden and Paul running plays, Clint Capella being the best lob threat in the league, while Trevor Ariza and PJ Tucker played ideal 3-and-D basketball. The Rockets had the best season in franchise history with 65 wins. On January 30th, 2018, Harden recorded 60 points, 10 rebounds, and 11 assists, which marked the highest scored points for a player with a triple-double, while also setting a franchise scoring record previously held by Calvin Murphy. And in a game against the Clippers, the Beard broke the ankles of Wesley Johnson so bad that it was embarrassing to watch. What was also embarrassing was the Rockets and Clippers tunnel fight, with Chris Paul beefing with his former team, which forever immortalized the words police presence.
Actually, outside of their team bus, there is a police presence.
LAPD was called.
But the third powerhouse of the West was going through the biggest crisis of the last 20 years, and it was all because their best player wasn't speaking with anyone on the team. Kawhi Leonard appeared in just 9 games of the season for the Spurs, after which he was shut down, claiming that he was still hurt and that the Spurs doctors rushed him to play. Leonard then went AWOL in what was the biggest drama of the year. However, another strange injury dragged in the media for an entire season, the one of the first overall pick who somehow forgot how to shoot. Markelle Fultz was drafted first by the Sixers due to his stellar season at Washington, where he averaged 23 points per game on 47% shooting from the field and 41% from 3. But when the season started, Fultz looked like the monsters from Space Jam stole his talent, with his jumper looking like the basketball version of Charles Barkley's golf swing. Fultz was later diagnosed with a thoracic outlet syndrome, which prevented him from fully extending his arm and causing him to completely change his jump shooting form. Markelle played in just 14 games for the Sixers, which was still enough for him to become the youngest player in NBA history to record a triple-double at 19 years and 317 days old. He recorded 13 points, 10 rebounds, and 10 assists, surpassing the record held by Lonzo Ball earlier in the season. But even without the number 1 pick, the Sixers were winning at last. Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons were finally healthy, with Embiid proving he's one of the most talented big men ever, while Simmons Simmons showed his all-around talent, averaging 16 points, 8 rebounds, and 8 assists. However, the biggest surprise in the East were the Raptors, who won a franchise record 59 games, which earned Dwayne Casey the Coach of the Year award. The Pacers also surprised everyone, making the playoffs without Paul George, due to the great play of Victor Oladipo, who became an All-Star. In the West, other than Golden State and Houston, 7 teams recorded between 46 and 49 victories, and for the first time since 1997, 2 teams played their last game against each other for the 8th and final spot in the playoffs. The Minnesota Timberwolves defeated the Denver Nuggets 112-106 in overtime to clinch the final playoff seed in the West, which ended their 13-year drought without a playoff appearance. Still, the Nuggets could be happy, as it was the coming-out party for Nikola Jokic, who started to resemble the superstar we know today. On February 15th, the Joker recorded the fastest triple-double in NBA history, with his feat in 14 minutes and 33 seconds. Russell Westbrook averaged a triple-double for the entire season once more, while his teammate Carmelo Anthony became the 21st player in NBA history to reach 25,000 points. The Lakers improved from the previous year, but were still miles away from making the playoffs, and their 2 best moments of the season involved Kobe Bryant. First, on December 8, 2017, during halftime against the Golden State Warriors, the Lakers held a ceremony to retire both of Kobe Bryant's jersey numbers in 8 and 24 in the Staples Center. And then in March, when Kobe's Dear Basketball won an Oscar for the Best Animated Short Film. And after finishing second in MVP voting, James Harden finally won the MVP honors after leading the NBA in scoring and finishing 3rd in assists. Ben Simmons became the Rookie of the Year ahead of Donovan Mitchell, who had a breakout season for the Jazz, along with Rudy Gobert, who won his first Defensive Player of the Year award. Lou Williams was 4 votes shy of winning the 6th Man of the Year unanimously, while Victor Oladipo needed 2 more votes to win the Most Improved Player unanimously. When the playoffs started, Donovan Mitchell outplayed the Thunder's superstars, as OKC lost in the first round for the 2nd straight season, despite Westbrook's triple-doubles. And even though they lost Boogie Cousins, the Pelicans swept Damian Lillard and the Blazers, due to a monster series from Davis and Drew Holiday. The Rockets had no trouble against Jimmy Butler and the Wolves, just like the Warriors against the Kawhi-less Spurs, despite playing without Steph Curry. In the East, the Sixers got past Miami, who had Dwayne Wade back, while the Raptors defeated the Wizards. The Celtics needed 7 games to break Giannis and the Bucks in the last season, and Antetokounmpo wasn't one of the best 5 players in the league. But the best first-round series was between Cleveland and Indiana. The Pacers dominantly won Game 1, despite a triple-double from James. In Game 2, LeBron realized that he'd need to take much of the scoring burden by himself. James finished with 46 points on 71% shooting to pull away with a 100-97 victory. Propelled by Croatian sharpshooter Bojan Bogdanovic, the Pacers took Game 3 and were on the brink of winning Game 4, but James had just enough left in the tank to tie the series. Game 5 was tied at 95 with less than 10 seconds to go, and Indiana had the ball. And what LeBron did in those 10 seconds was pure poetry.
James, 2 seconds, 1 second for the win!
Indiana then took a dominant win at home to send the series back to Cleveland for Game 7.
What did the words Game 7 mean to you?
Win or go home.
When James took out his DIY kit and gave Cleveland fans another playoff masterpiece. 45 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists, and 4 steals in a 105-101 victory. For the series, James either scored or assisted on 60% of the Cavaliers' points, averaging 34.4 points, 10 rebounds, and 7.7 assists, and hitting over 55% of his shots. In the second round, the Warriors had little trouble against the Pelicans, just like the Rockets against Utah, with both series done and dusted after 5 games. In the East, the Celtics also needed 5 games to defeat the Sixers and the masked Joel Embiid, but the biggest surprise was the series between Cleveland and Toronto. The Raptors had 2 All-Stars, a deep roster, and the best record in the conference, while the Cavs struggled all season, and there were several analysts who predicted the Raptors to advance. But the Cavs had LeBron James, and that was all that mattered. The Raptors were a better team for the vast majority of Game 1. But they managed to squander a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter. Toronto never trailed once for 48 minutes, but LeBron's clutch turnaround jumper in the last minute tied the score at 105 and sent the game to overtime. In the OT, the Raptors kept missing, and the Cavs were able to steal Game 1 on the road, powered by LeBron's triple-double. Game 2 was close at the half, but then turned into a blowout. LeBron dominated once again in a 128-110 victory, finishing with 43 points and 14 assists. In a close Game 3, it was the Raptors who were catching up to the Cavs the entire time. But due to an excellent play from Kyle Lowry, they got within distance. And then OG Anunoby tied the game with 8 seconds to go. The Cavs called a timeout, and everybody knew who was going to get the ball in the last possession.
3 seconds to go. Throws up the floater. Off
After that, the Raptors completely fell apart and lost Game 4 in a 35-point blowout. They got swept by LeBron and the Cavs for the second season in a row, after which Coach of the Year Dwayne Casey got fired.
My instant reaction is that it's BS. I don't think he deserved it because he lost to the best player in the world.
LeBron averaged 34, 8, and 11 for the series and was an inspiration for many memes, while LeBronto became the new nickname for the biggest city in Canada. Boston was considered the toughest team LeBron had to face in the Eastern Conference in 2018, and the Celtics fulfilled those expectations by winning both opening games at home. LeBron had to build every possession from the ground up, and if he didn't score or create an open jumper, his teammates would swing the ball right back to him, almost without exception. However, the Cavs managed to tie the series back home, and LeBron was especially brilliant in Game 4. But the Celtics took Game 5, and for the fourth time in his career, LeBron faced a 3-2 deficit against Boston. But there were levels to this game, and James showed that he was still in a class of his own. In Game 6, he led the Cavs to victory with 46 points, 11 rebounds, and 9 assists. In Game 7, in Boston, he silenced the crowd with a huge 35, 15, and 9 performance, carrying the Cavs to another NBA Finals. And the Western Conference Finals were equally interesting, and it was also decided in 7 games. The Rockets built their whole roster to be able to match up with the Warriors, and suddenly Golden State's players looked mortal again. Houston pushed the Warriors out of their comfort zone by slowing down the pace as much as possible, with an average possession lasting 18 seconds. They also attacked the Warriors one-on-one to avoid double teams, and they killed the Dubs on the glass with their offensive rebounding. But whenever Kerr had faced a deficit in any game, he simply used the death lineup, which no team had an answer for, except for Houston. With PJ Tucker at center and long defenders at the wings, the Rockets neutralized the best 5-man lineup in NBA history with their own version of small ball. After 5 games, the Rockets had a 3-2 lead, and it seemed like the Warriors' dynasty was in serious jeopardy. Except, in the final moments of Game 5, Chris Paul got hurt and was ruled out for the series. Game 6 was a blowout with the Warriors winning by 29, and everybody expected the same result in Game 7. And yet, the Rockets started the deciding game playing out of their minds.
Steve, what did you see from your team in the first quarter? I saw one of the worst quarters of basketball we've ever played.
Houston had an 11-point lead at the half, and it looked like David could somehow beat Goliath. But then the Warriors hit that turbo button again and hit a series of threes to turn the game around. The game was still close at the end, but the Rockets missed 27 threes in a row, and it was all over. The Dubs made another final, and for the 4th straight year, they faced LeBron and the Cavs. But this time, King James was without Kyrie, and it was a miracle that he even made the finals, because it looked like he was playing with some bystanders that he picked up on the street on his way to the arena. Still, in Game 1, LeBron proved that he's one of the GOATs by scoring 51 points, only for J.R. Smith to forget the score of the game in the final moments and pass up a potential game-winning shot. After that, it was all over, and the Warriors' next title was a walk in the park as they swept the Cavs. The only close game was Game 3, which was again clinched by a Kevin Durant deep 3 from virtually the same spot as the year before. With 29 points, 11 rebounds, 7 assists, over 2 blocks per game, and 50-40-90 shooting splits, Durant deservingly won another Finals MVP. And after the Finals ended, it was evident that LeBron had taken the Cavs as far as they could go, and that it would be best for him to leave Cleveland once again.
LeBron James, who has until this Friday to pick up his $35.6 million player option or become a free agent.
Just like many superstars before him, LeBron chose the Lakers, signing with LA on the first day of free agency. The biggest trade in the offseason was Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green joining the Raptors, while DeMar DeRozan and Jakob Poeltl went to San Antonio. When he first came to Toronto, Kawhi broke the internet with this legendary laugh. Carmelo Anthony's time in OKC expired after 1 season as he got traded to Atlanta for Dennis Schroeder, with the Hawks immediately waiving Melo, after which he signed with the Rockets.
Carmelo will never play for the Hawks. They will release him and give him the opportunity to go where he wants.
David West retired after winning a title with the Warriors. Richard Jefferson decided he was better at talking than playing ball at this point. Al Jefferson also called it quits, just like Manu Ginobili, who decided to hang him up after 17 seasons with the Spurs. The Spurs also lost Tony Parker, who signed with the Hornets, where he'd play the last year of his storied career. DeMarcus Cousins signed with the Warriors, which many believed was almost unfair, while Rajon Rondo joined the Lakers. But what preceded all those moves was the legendary 2018 draft. The Phoenix Suns had the first overall pick, and there was little doubt that they would take DeAndre Ayton. an athletic 7-footer with a reliable jumper. The Kings had the second pick, and everyone believed that their GM, Vlade Divac, was going to take Luka Doncic, as he was familiar with his game through his father Sasha, a fellow Serbian. But then Divac surprised everyone by taking Marvin Bagley, because Sacramento also had De'Aaron Fox at point guard. Luka was then drafted third by the Hawks, who immediately traded him to Dallas and the 5th pick, which became Trae Young. The Grizzlies drafted the future Defensive Player of the Year, Jaren Jackson Jr., and the future MVP, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, got selected 11th overall by the Clippers. Once considered the most talented player of his generation, Michael Porter Jr. was drafted 17th overall by the Nuggets. But the biggest steal of the draft was Jalen Brunson, who fell to the second round, where he was drafted 33rd overall by the Mavericks, who were the biggest winners of the draft. The NBA implemented a new rule that further increased scoring, shortening the game clock from the typical 24 seconds to 14 seconds during offensive rebounds. When the season started, the Warriors hit the ground running, winning 10 out of their first 11 games. And during the game against the Bulls, Klay Thompson made history, breaking the NBA record for most three-pointers made in a game with 14, surpassing the former record of 13 held by Steph Curry. He also set the record for most three-pointers attempted in a game at 24, as well as tied Chandler Parsons' record for most three-pointers made in a half with 10. On the negative side of three-point history, Brook Lopez set the record for most three-pointers attempted in a game without making one, with 12 attempts, while James Harden tied Damon Stoudemire's NBA record for most three-point field goals missed in a game, with 16. By this season, the whole league adopted the three-pointer as the main offensive weapon, as the number of attempts from deep nearly doubled compared to 2010. The pace also increased to exactly 100 possessions per 48 minutes, compared to 92 in the 2009-10 season. Consequently, the league average for points per game climbed to 111, while it was only 100 at the start of the decade. As a result of this shift, numerous records in three-pointers were broken. The Rockets set the record for the most three-point field goals made in a game with 26, breaking the previous record of 25 set by the Cavaliers in 2017. On January 16, 2019, the Golden State Warriors and New Orleans Pelicans recorded the most three-point field goals made in a game by both teams combined at 43. They broke the record the Warriors and Sacramento Kings set just 11 days prior, with 41. But even though they were winning games, things weren't going as smooth with the Warriors. Early in the season, with less than 10 seconds left during a tie game with the Clippers, Draymond Green secured the rebound, but rather than pass to Kevin Durant, who had a 33-point triple-double at that point, he elected to dribble the ball up himself. While KD was seen hopping up and down begging for the ball at half court, Green lost control, and the Dubs failed to get a shot off, and the game went to overtime, which sparked a big fight on the Warriors bench. And in Southern California, things weren't so peachy for the Lakers. In the first game of the season, Rajon Rondo got suspended after a fight with Chris Paul. LeBron was battling a groin injury that kept him out of action for 27 games of the season, and it was clear he wasn't playing his best basketball, especially on defense. During a game against the Clippers, LeBron's lackadaisical defense was in full effect, and Kyle Kuzma pushed him to make an effort, which perfectly summarized the Lakers' season. And when it became clear that the Lakers weren't going to make the playoffs, their team president stepped down in a meme-worthy press conference.
I'm not gonna be here.
Magic Johnson wasn't particularly good at his job, nor was he happy doing it. And just like that, he quit, without telling the team owner Jeannie Buss or any of the players. However, it wasn't all bad for the Lakers. On December 15th, LeBron and Lonzo Ball both recorded triple-doubles, the first time that teammates had recorded triple-doubles in the same game since 2007, when Jason Kidd and Vince Carter did so. And on March 7th, 2019, LeBron made history, moving past his idol, Michael Jordan, for 4th place on the NBA's all-time scoring list. But the biggest story of the season was James Harden and his unreal scoring streak. After Chris Paul and multiple other Rockets were sidelined due to injuries, Harden kept the Rockets afloat by himself. Between December 23rd and February 25th, Harden recorded 32 consecutive games of scoring 30-plus points, the second longest 30-point streak in NBA history. Harden became the first player in NBA history to score 30 or more points against all 29 other teams in a single season, and some of those were outright ridiculous. To start the streak, Harden had a 50-point triple-double. He dropped 57 on the Grizzlies, followed up by a career-high 58 points in the very next game against the Nets, and then increased his career high with 61 against the Knicks in Madison Square Garden. The Beard averaged 41.1 points during the streak, and his 52.5 points per game over one 5-game stretch was surpassed only by Wilt Chamberlain. James averaged a league-leading 36.1 points, the highest scoring average in the NBA since Michael Jordan's 37.1 1 points per game in 1986-87, along with 7.5 assists and 6.1 rebounds per game. But the best moment of Harden's season came during an epic game against the Warriors, when he posted a 44-point triple-double, including a three-pointer to force overtime, and then in the OT, an incredibly tough three for the win. However, there was one Greek guy in the East who was doing some pretty impressive things too, which sparked one of the tightest MVP battles of the decade. Giannis came to the NBA as a skinny 6'9" shy guy from Greece who only wanted to send money to his family so they could have enough money to pay rent. By 2019, he was a 6'11" monster with muscles ripping through his jersey and ready to bulldoze everyone that came across him. But Giannis didn't only grow in size and demeanor, his skills also improved. Even though he still wasn't a good shooter, he didn't need to be, since he could spin past or spin through defenders and dunk. Give him a full head of steam, and he could get to the rim in 2 dribbles from half court for a dunk. The most unfair addition to his game, however, was the implementation of the Euro step. It became his go-to move with a full head of steam when a defender was actually foolish enough to try and stick with him. Giannis averaged 28 points, 12 rebounds, and 6 assists, along with 1.3 steals and 1.5 blocks, as the most physically imposing player that came to the NBA since LeBron. But apart from a competitive MVP race, Luka Doncic showing that he was supposed to be the first overall pick, the 2019 NBA season had several side quest storylines. On December 13th, Dirk Nowitzki made his season debut, marking his 21st season in the league. This gave him sole possession of the record for most seasons played with one team, surpassing Kobe Bryant's 20. Dirk announced that it would be his final season in the NBA, with many teams organizing tribute videos when the Mavs came to town. Likewise, Dwayne Wade was also playing in his last season, after which the NBA made both Dirk and Wade honorary All-Stars at the 2019 All-Star Weekend. And speaking of old guys, on December 29, 2018, Vince Carter became the oldest player in NBA history to score 20-plus points at 41 years and 337 days old, as he scored 21 points for the Hawks in a win against the Cavaliers. And even though he wasn't exactly old, due to numerous injuries and nearly retiring in the previous season, what Derrick Rose did against the Jazz warmed the hearts of NBA fans worldwide. In a vintage performance, Rose led the Timberwolves by scoring a career-high 50 points. Then, at the closing seconds, Rose clinched the win by blocking a potential game-tying three-pointer from Dante Exum, after which he cried his eyes out in the post-game interview.
My teammates told me before the game, just play my game, and tonight was a hell of a night.
And speaking of the Timberwolves, they certainly had an interesting season. During preseason, Jimmy Butler asked to be traded, which wasn't well received by the organization. Pissed off that the Wolves didn't accept his request, Jimmy came late to one practice in November, during which he proceeded to annihilate the rest of the starters, winning the scrimmage with guys who barely cracked the rotation. Then he proceeded to verbally bash teammates Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins and yelled, "You bleeping need me," to the sidelines coach Thibodeau and general manager Scott Layden. And that was the final straw, after which the Wolves finally relented and traded Jimmy to Philadelphia, who also added Tobias Harris during the deadline, aiming to win the championship immediately. The Knicks traded Kristaps Porzingis to Dallas, while the Raptors added Marc Gasol from the Grizzlies, further bolstering their chances to win the title. Even though Kawhi kept doing load management throughout the season, when he did play, he was arguably the best player in the league, with unreal efficiency from the mid-range, mind-bending defensive highlights, and clutch shooting, including this game winner against the Blazers. Russell Westbrook kept doing Russell Westbrook things, and in February, he set an NBA record of recording 10 straight games with a triple-double, which broke Wilt Chamberlain's old record of 9. On April 2, 2019, Westbrook became the second player in history, after Wilt, to register a 20-20-20 game, scoring 20 points, 21 assists, and 20 rebounds in a 119-103 win against the Lakers, dedicating the game to the rapper Nipsey Hussle, who was killed 2 days prior. Nikola Jokic also kept tallying triple-doubles, finishing the season with 12 and making the All-Star for the first time. But his best play of the season was the game winner against Luka and the Mavs. And in a game against the Hornets, where Kemba Walker scored 60 points, Jimmy Butler made his first game winner for the 76ers. However, the craziest game winner of the season was made by Charlotte's Jeremy Lamb. And the craziest game of the season was a quadruple overtime between Chicago and Atlanta, just the 15th quadruple overtime in league history. The Bulls outlasted the Hawks 168-161 in the third highest scoring NBA game ever, led by rookie Trae Young, who dropped a career-high 49 points, 16 assists, and 8 rebounds. In March, Lou Williams became the NBA's career leader in points off the bench with 34 points in a 140-115 win over the Boston Celtics, surpassing Del Curry. 1 month later, Jamal Crawford scored 51 points off the bench versus the Dallas Mavericks, the most bench points in a game in NBA history. For the All-Star Weekend, 2 leading vote-getters in each conference drafted their teammates for the second year in a row. But this time, the draft was televised, with TNT's Ernie Johnson taking the stage with team captains LeBron and Giannis. LeBron's team won 178-164, and Kevin Durant won the MVP with 31 points, while Giannis put up 38 points and 11 rebounds. Though he didn't get the win, Giannis's freakish dunk off Steph Curry's bounce pass alley-oop was the play of the weekend. Hamidou Diallo's dunk over Shaquille O'Neal ultimately won him the slam dunk contest, and was one of the few memorable dunks of the weekend, while Joe Harris won the three-point contest against Steph. Giannis was named the league MVP over James Harden and Paul George, and the Beard had to settle with only a scoring title. Luka Doncic won the Rookie of the Year over Trae Young, 2 votes shy of a unanimous victory, while Rudy Gobert repeated as Defensive Player of the Year, winning the award ahead of Giannis. After averaging 20 points off the bench for the Clippers, Lou Williams unsurprisingly won the Sixth Man of the Year award for the 3rd time, while Pascal Siakam became the most improved player. When the playoffs started, the Warriors played an extremely fun series against the Clippers, with Patrick Beverley doing his damnedest to guard Kevin Durant. The Clippers kept hanging on, winning Game 5 to cut the series deficit to 3-2. And in the post-game press conference, Kevin Durant had to explain who he was.
I'm Kevin Durant. You know who I am. Y'all know who I am.
And then he dropped the mic in Game 6, scoring 50 points to put the Clippers away, while poor Lou Williams and Pat Beverly described that
we tried everything. So sometimes you come across special people, and it doesn't matter what you send to them.
The Blazers defeated the Thunder in 5 games in a series that will forever be remembered by the second series-clinching buzzer beater from Damian Lillard.
Lillard, long-range 3,
which Paul George called
bad shot.
Harden and the Rockets got past the Jazz in 5 games, while Jokic won the first series of his career against San Antonio, nearly averaging a triple-double in 7 games. In the East, the Magic stunned the second-seeded Raptors in Game 1 on this game-winning 3 by DJ Augustin, but Kawhi was too good. And the next 4 games weren't close, and Toronto advanced. The other 3 series weren't close either, as the Bucks and the Celtics swept Detroit and Indiana, while the Sixers needed 5 games to defeat Brooklyn. However, the second round was much more interesting, giving the fans another classic showdown between the Warriors and the Rockets. The series was tied after 4 games, and in Game 5, KD went down with a calf injury, but the Rockets couldn't capitalize on his absence. In Game 6, Harden and CP3 combined for 65 points, but it wasn't enough, as the Splash Brothers had 60 of their own, while the Warriors bench did the rest, and the Warriors advanced to the conference finals, where they would play the Blazers, who defeated the Nuggets in a tight 7-game series. In the East, Giannis and the Bucks didn't have much problem with the Celtics, beating Boston in 5 games. But by far the best series was the one between Toronto and Philadelphia. After 6 grueling games, it all came down to Game 7, during which neither team had a big lead. The Raptors were up by 4 in the final minute, but with 4 seconds to go, Jimmy Butler tied the game at 90, giving the Raptors one chance to win it. Naturally, the ball ended up in Leonard's hands, and what happened next was one of the wildest shots in NBA history.
For the win!
The Claw finished with 41 points and averaged 35 in the series, sending the Sixers home and making Joel Embiid cry. However, in the conference finals, it seemed like the Raptors were doomed after Milwaukee won the first 2 games.
Where do you go from here, Kawhi?
I'm going to Toronto, Game 3.
But then the Raptors implemented a new strategy, building a wall in front of the basket to stop Giannis from driving. The Greek Freak, the league MVP, couldn't get past the wall of Toronto's players, who sealed up the paint. The Raptors won the next 4 games and got to their first NBA Finals. In the West, the Blazers had a golden opportunity to make their first NBA Finals since 1992 because the Warriors had to play without Durant. But the Blazers completely dropped the ball, getting swept, while Golden State made the finals for the 5th consecutive season. However, the Raptors weren't the Blazers, and Kawhi was playing on a GOAT level. Without KD, the Warriors didn't have enough scoring to beat him. with Nick Nurse throwing everything in the kitchen sink at Steph Curry, with the infamous box-and-one defense that limited the Warriors' best player. Toronto took a 3-1 series lead, but then KD returned in Game 5 and everything looked different. Golden State's spacing was better. KD's 7 feet and pterodactyl wingspan bothered Kawhi, and it looked like the Warriors could turn the series around until the second quarter, when KD went down with a pop in his lower leg, knowing immediately that his Achilles was torn. Despite KD's injury, the Warriors survived Game 5 and extended the series, but after Klay went down with an ACL tear in Game 6, it was all over. The Raptors became new NBA champions, with Kawhi as the Finals MVP and averaging 39-4 for the entire playoff run, while shooting close to 50-40-90. It was one of the most memorable seasons of all time, perfectly ending one of the most spectacular decades in NBA history. From super teams to surreal statistical feats, crazy game winners, and everything in between, the 2010s were truly amazing. And due to the rise of technology, the increase in number of basketball shows and podcasts, the craziness of free agency and player empowerment, the NBA season was extended to nearly 11 months, as the NBA became a year-round product and more interesting than ever. No other decade offered this significant of a change to the way basketball was played, how transactions took place, and how the league was covered. And it's fair to say that the 2010s was the most interesting decade in NBA history. Thank you for watching. And if you like this video, we have another one for you right here.